This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Apostle has the lead. Audible, fully stretched on the far outside. The rail open for Sir Anthony, and they're at the top of the stretch. Castellano now asks Audible for his best. Sir Anthony giving him all he wants on the rail. These two for a final 16th. Sir Anthony the leader. Audible has been outrun by Sir Anthony. Sir Anthony upsets the Harlan's Holiday.
Inside the furlong call, Long Range Toddy. The Clever Trevor winner is pouring it on. Bank it. Rolling after Long Range Toddy. Long Range Toddy needs a line, and Long Range Toddy gets it by a head to win the Springboard Mile.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
It's Chase's Road, who's finding this final fairgrounds furlong. Chase's Road leads determinately by 3.5 with Raising Cane, and the winner is Then Hay Strike. It's Chase's Road. Chase's Road wins here by 5 in the Gunrunner Stakes.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Good morning once again, everyone. Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires. This, of course, the show that launched a network. And happy to have you along for the ride for the next 3 hours on Sirius 162, XM 207, our affiliates in Lexington, Louisville, and across the country, streaming worldwide and podcast on our website, horseracingradio.net, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Getting ready to wind down 2025, and as we do, the road to the Kentucky Derby, which, by the way, is already in full swing, continues later today, and it continues at the fairgrounds and at Remington Park with the Springboard Mile. At the fairgrounds, you have the Gunrunner Stakes. You also have the Untappable Stakes for the fillies, too. Let's not forget about the ladies as they make their way toward the first Friday in May and the Kentucky Oaks. Going to spend plenty of time talking about those races for you here this morning. Also going to talk about Gulfstream's 2 Grade 3 races. You have the Grade 3 Harlan's Holiday and the Grade 3 Fort Lauderdale. Trainer Bobby Dibona, New England native, spent a full hour with me on Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton yesterday afternoon. And he talked about he has a horse in each of those races, and he talked about those horses, but he told some other incredible stories of growing up around Suffolk Downs and going to the fairs in New England, like the Marshfield Fair, for example. And he told some great stories. If you missed the show, you can check out the podcast. But I took a portion of that program, and I'm going to play it for you coming up in a few minutes at 8:15, because Bobby had some great things to say about his 2 horses in those races today. Con Campagna, the Chilean bred, 5-2 on the morning line in the Harlan's Holiday, and Steel Sunshine, who likes Gulfstream Park, going in the Grade 3 Fort Lauderdale. So stay tuned for that conversation with Bobby. Jareth Loveberry is going to be with me at 8:35. We actually spoke yesterday because he's so busy working horses this morning, couldn't squeeze it in, but he was able to make time for me yesterday. So Jareth and I had a wonderful conversation about his milestone win number 2,000. That came December 12th. At the fairgrounds. And he talked about, I won't steal the thunder from the entire conversation, but he talked about growing up in Michigan and thinking he wasn't really going to be a jockey. I mean, he liked riding horses and he loved the horse, but this wasn't his ultimate goal in life initially. Well, it became his passion. It became his ultimate goal, and now here he is reaching that 2,000 win milestone. So you'll hear from Jareth coming up in just a little bit. You can't talk about the Springboard Mile and the Untappable Stakes and the Gunrunner Stakes without talking about trainer Ken McPeek, because he has horses in those 3 stakes races later today. Ken McPeek, he has horses in 3 stakes races at the fairgrounds. He has 1 horse entered in the Tinsel Stakes at Oaklawn, and then 3 horses at Remington Park, 1 in 3 different stakes. So Kenny's going to be a busy man. He teams up with jockey Brian Hernandez Jr., as he typically does. They become a really potent combination. They team up with Sir Greyland in the Tenacious Stakes at the fairgrounds, Miss Call in the Untappable, and Liberty National in the Gunrunner. McPeek has 2 horses in that gun runner, 2 promising 3-year-olds. His other one very connected, going to be ridden by Brian's younger brother, Colby Hernandez. Kind of a cool storyline there. Kenny and Brian are going to be with me together, live on the show this morning, 9 o'clock. Stay tuned for that. It should be a lot of fun. We'll talk about that relationship. We'll talk about what makes it click. Why is it successful? Why has Kenny always been such a big supporter of Brian Hernandez Jr.? And what does that mean for Brian to have a guy like Kenny McPeek in his corner? And, of course, we'll talk about their horses they're teaming up with at the fairgrounds today, too. So some wonderful insight coming away at 9 o'clock. And then I'll ask Kenny about his other horses in those other stakes. Supreme Good, the Irish bred, is his runner in the Springboard Mile. You look at those early Derby prep races, the Gun Runner and the Springboard Mile, and you look at the history, they've given us contenders. And you could argue the Springboard Mile has given us more major players when it comes to the Kentucky Derby picture. At least, if not even the Kentucky Derby, more major players beyond the Kentucky Derby, later in the season, in other races, and later in their careers. And what I mean by that, you look at the Gun Runner, you have horses like Epicenter, Track Phantom, both of those trained by Steve Asmussen, winners of the Gun Runner Stakes, and then last year Built. And Built was a horse that, after he won the Gun Runner, a lot of people were looking at him. And we talked about him on this program. If you remember, Aaron Wellman, Eclipse Thoroughbred Partners, the owners, joined me on the show. Wayne Catalano, the trainer, joined me on the show. And we talked about Built and how he looked like he was going to be at the upper echelon of Derby prospects all the way through the spring. And what we found was that, okay, he's probably better at shorter distances. So that was the move that they made with Built, who, by the way, returned successfully this past week at the fairgrounds under Jareth Loveberry. We'll talk to Jareth about that, too. But then the Springboard Mile. You look at the horses that come from the Springboard Mile at Remington. And sometimes that race, I don't know if it gets the respect it deserves. Will Take Charge, going all the way back to 2012. Now, he didn't win the Springboard Mile. He was second that year. But we know that he went on to do some pretty big things. Senor Buscador won the Springboard Mile. He turned out to be okay, didn't he? And last year, the Springboard Mile gave us one of the great human interest stories surrounding the Kentucky Derby with Coal Battle. He won the Springboard Mile. He made his way to the Kentucky Derby. For trainer Lonnie Briley, first time he ever got a taste of the Kentucky Derby. It was a tremendous story. So you wonder what storylines, what major player could emerge from either of those races today. And that's kind of the fun of these Derby preps at this time of year. You just don't know. I talked about this on the program last week. Development is the key for all of these 2-year-olds getting ready to turn 3 over the next couple of months. And that's going to be true for the horses in the Springboard Mile. It's going to be true for the horses in the Gun Runner, too. My poll question for you this morning, we are closing in on Christmas, of course, just 5 days away. What is the best racing-related Christmas gift you ever received? When Dale and Tim join me at the end of the show, I'm going to ask them about the perfect Christmas gift for any racing fan. What would be the perfect gift? But I want to know from you, what's the best racing-related Christmas gift you've ever received? You can go to @HRRN on our X page to let us know. And you can go to Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook. If you're a Facebook person, you can just weigh in there. Let us know your thoughts. And then for those of you that don't do social media, email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. What is the best racing-related Christmas gift you ever received? I was trying to think about mine. I was trying to remember if I ever received tickets to any big race as a Christmas gift. I don't believe I ever did. Probably, it was probably a book on handicapping. And I'm trying to remember the name of it now. This is going back a long ways. It was probably that handicapping book, and I studied that book. I never put it down. Didn't do me any good, for those of you who know me. There aren't enough handicapping books in the world to make me a good horse player. But it was an interesting read. It was almost like a textbook. It may have been called Betting Thoroughbreds or something. But I believe that was probably the one, the Christmas-related, the racing-related Christmas gift. But let me know what your best one you ever received. Okay, time now to check in with Lee Delapina. He has this week's Impossible Trivia question. Lee, what do you got for us?
Thank you, Mike. Now, Christmas Day is the only day of the year when every single thoroughbred track in North America is closed, but this hasn't always been the case. Calder Racecourse in Miami kept the tradition alive. They held live racing on Christmas Day every year until 1994. Who was the very last horse to win a race on Christmas Day in the United States? No Googling. We'll give out the answer at the end of the show.
Yep. Yeah, no Googling. That's a really good one, too. That's why we call it the Impossible Trivia question. Well done, Lee Delapina. All right, here's the full lineup for you here this morning. Going to get a chance to hear from trainer Bobby Dibona coming up in just a few minutes. Jareth Loveberry at 8:35. Ken McPeek, Brian Hernandez, 9 o'clock Eastern. Kurt Becker at 9:35. Kurt Becker, he brings you a Stroll Through Racing History every single week. Well, this morning, we are going to look back on some of Kurt's favorite stories that he put together for you in 2025. He selected his top 5. I think you're really going to enjoy that segment at 9:35. 10 Eastern is the TwinSpires Triple Play. Get a chance to hear from Ashley Anderson. She'll have 3 races for you to watch and wager on later today with TwinSpires. Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segment comes your way at 10:20, focusing on the legendary Bing Crosby. And at 10:30, Dale and Tim with I Ask, They Answer. All of that is coming up on today's edition of the Equine Forum right here on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
A Keeneland session topper from the first crop of the all-conquering Vekoma. Jonathan's Way was touted by purchaser John Moynihan as, quote, one of the best-looking horses you'll ever lay your eyes on. Out of an undefeated stakes-winning juvenile daughter of Indian Charlie, Jonathan's Way is a complete outcross through his first 5 generations and comes from the immediate female family of the great Dynaformer. Brilliantly talented with the pedigree and physical makeup to be commercial dynamite. Jonathan's Way, a future stallion star, standing at Airdrie Stud. Think about it.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
On the outside, Tumbarumba toward the inside. It's Il Miraculo. Shaq Diesel begins to move forward for Bravo. Gilmore's the first to give way, and Steel Sunshine trying to thread the needle inside. Paco thinks better of it and tries to work to the outside. Shaq Diesel tries to pin him in. They complete 3/4 and they race for home. 3/4, 110 flat. The leader is Tumbarumba. Il Miraculo back for a little bit more with the inside spot. Over the top, Steel Sunshine has had pace ahead of him. Now he's got a kick. There's an 1/8 of a mile to go. Steel Sunshine closing good ground on the outside. Tumbarumba's a tough foe and he's trying to cling to him. Steel Sunshine, Tumbarumba, these two to the wire. Photo finish! How game is Tumbarumba?
Yeah, how game is Tumbarumba? How game was Steel Sunshine that day? Pete Aiello with the call. Steel Sunshine, a really tough rival on his day. That was the 2024 Gulfstream Park Mile, won by Steel Sunshine, who returns today in the Grade 3 Fort Lauderdale for trainer Bobby Dibona, one of 2 horses that Bobby is saddling in those graded stakes today. Cone Campagna, his horse in the Harlan's Holiday. And as I mentioned, Bobby took time yesterday to spend a full hour with me on Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton. I took part of that conversation for you here this morning. I think you're going to enjoy it. He talks about Steel Sunshine. He talks about Cone Campagna. Here it is. Bobby, that call we just heard, that moment when Steel Sunshine got to the wire first in the Gulfstream Park Mile, that was pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big one. I remember it well, and Brian Lynch trained Tumba Rumba, and we're pretty friendly, and, you know, I knew he was the horse to beat, and, yeah, we got lucky. It went our way.
Yeah, it went your way. He was Steel Sunshine. We're going to talk about him more here because he's entered again on Saturday afternoon in the Fort Lauderdale Stakes for you, but this is a horse that, I mean, on his day, tough as nails.
He shows up. I mean, I brought him to Dubai with me. If I don't get left in Dubai, I might have won the race. You know, and I lost Paco. I had to pick up another rider, and he has a tendency sometimes to not break well. And, you know, and he's a hard horse to ride, too. You know, you don't want to be rushed. You gotta finesse him a little bit. But he's got a huge heart, and I've had him since day one.
When did you first get a sense that you had something special with him?
When I won the Ellis Park Derby. I won the what was the stake here? I don't know which order it went in, but I win a stake here. No, I think I win the one there first. The Ellis Park Derby is when I knew he was for real.
And he runs on pretty much any surface. What's his best surface?
Well, this is the whole $1 million question, right? So when I returned from Dubai, I needed a prep race. And Mike Ivorone had bought full interest in the horse. And he likes to compete at Kentucky Downs. And he said, you know, what do you think that we run this horse on the grass? So, well, his first race of his life was on the turf because I thought he was a turf horse. I moved him to the dirt. He won by 10, and I had no reason to go back to the grass. And he won, you know, multiple stakes and everything on the dirt. Well, when I came back from Dubai, I ran him on the grass. And I didn't have him all the way cranked up because it was a prep race, and you know, I had different things on the horizon. I just wanted to get something into him. And, Jesus, I got beat a neck. He was probably best in the race. Everybody says he was. The horse that beat me by a Cones horse come back and win a Grade 2 and was third in the $2 million. So he's legit. And I run a great number, and it was just an unbelievable race, considering everything. So we set our sights on Kentucky Downs, and things got messed up. It got rained off. We missed a prep race. I got to Kentucky Downs, which, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with that place, but it's a whole nother trip. Yeah. And, you know, we had some complications. They said he hit his head in the paddock. He never did. They scratched him. And, you know, just things weren't going good. And I come back, and I run him. He ran okay. And then I got him back on the dirt. I slowed it all down, prepared the way I wanted to prepare, and he galloped in his last start. Edgar Zayas told me he was just amazing. And Edgar rode him for the first time beautifully. So I'm coming off that win. It looks like he's back to himself. And Mike wanted to run him one more time in the grass. He says he don't know what his ceiling is there. So I find myself in the Fort Lauderdale, and, you know, we're going to have to see what happens.
Yeah, how about that distance, 1 1/8 of the Fort Lauderdale? You mentioned being on the turf. You like the distance for him?
I do, because he'll run all day. When he works, some horses kind of pull up after the work, or they're done by the half a mile galloping out. The son of a gun is just all day. All day. I mean, even when I was in the Florida Derby and some bigger races, he finishes just so well. And so I don't anticipate that being the problem. Yeah. And he likes to wait on the rail a little bit. So I drew the rail. I'm just gonna wait in there until I bring him out and see what he does.
You mentioned that relationship with Michael Ivarone, and people will remember his name from Big Brown when he had Big Brown as IEAH Stables. Tell me about that relationship.
It's growing wonderfully. He bought into Steel Sunshine. Like, he'll do that. He'll buy into some horses. He bought into the Breeders' Cup winner this year.
Yep.
He paid $1 million for 25% of the horse. And so he's put together a group of good investors. He's very strong right now. And so I had him with Steel Sunshine, but I had that horse Fly the W. And, I just put it out there. He was trying to get some horses. Says, you want to buy a piece of this horse? He's pretty good. And he's like, let me see, and he said, okay. And then I won like 8 or 9 races for him. And, we went from just a text and a handshake to now we're more friends. We could sit down and have a beer and talk, and his wife is wonderful, and they have a lot of confidence in me, and the relationship seems to just really be growing, and I'm chasing my first grade 1. You mentioned I'm close to 500, which is pretty big for me, but it's the grade 1 that I want, and he says he's going to help me get it.
Has he let you go shopping in his closet yet?
No, he's a flamboyant guy, but he's a very sweet man. Very generous. He might come off a little bit different if you don't know him, but he's a really good guy.
You think he could pull off some of those looks that he goes with?
No, I can't do it. I can't. He's the one and only. I can't match that.
I agree 100%. Yeah, always very flashy, Michael Ivarone. And I'm glad the relationship is evolving. And we talked about Con Campagna, the Chilean bred, also owned in partnership with Michael Ivarone. Miguel Vasquez is the jockey in that race for you. This is a new horse to your barn. He's been really successful on the front end in his last few starts. Do you see that being the same strategy coming up Saturday afternoon?
Well, I trained him to do that. Yes.
What does that mean? That's a great quote.
Well, you see the works. He just turned in 2 bullets in 59. He never worked anything like that ever in his life. He's a slow workhorse. But I got him some company, and then he turned in 2 works in 59. I actually worked him with Steel Sunshine. So, I've trained maybe a little differently than he's been trained. It looks like I'm the speed of the race. Pippi Longstockings is obviously the class of the race and probably the best horse. But coming off a very poor performance, and I got to see if we can possibly, get him to the top and see what happens. We have some really good numbers with first-time acquisitions, and I find that I felt that he needs to train. He needs to train. You can't just baby him and easy. And no, I trained very hard for this race.
Bobby, is it the opposite? If you have a horse that you want to relax in the afternoon, so you train them slower in the mornings?
Yeah, a lot is the rider and how they can finesse the horse a little bit. Sometimes you're better just getting off their mouth. They don't want you grabbing them. Other ones, you need to keep them in the bridle. So a little bit is to do with the rider, But like I said, they're all different, and you got to have the horse. That's the thing too. You got to have the horse.
Yeah, you got to have the horse. And Bobby Dibona hoping he has both horses later today at Gulfstream Park. And his comments on Con Campagna were interesting to me when he talked about the way he's gone about training this horse and putting more speed into this horse. Well, when you look at his past performances, his last 3 races, he went right to the front. He had plenty of speed to get to the front. And those were in sprint races. Well, his last race was a mile, winning effort there. But the 2 races before that, 7 furlongs, 6.5, he made the lead in both of them. Going 22 and change, 44. He has speed. And Bobby talked about working him, training him a bit harder, a bit quicker. And you see that when you look at his most recent workouts, December 6th, 59 and change. December 13th, 47 and 2/5. Cone Campagna is 5-2 on the morning line against Skippy Longstocking for Saffie Joseph Jr., who I think most people expect is the horse to beat in there. At least he should be among the he's going to be among the favorites, but a lot of people looking at him as a major player. And then you have Poster for Owen Hardy. Remember Poster? We were talking about him along the road to the Kentucky Derby last year because he won the Grade 2 Remsen almost a year ago, just over a year ago, December 7th, as a matter of fact, and then came back and was 3rd in the Sam F. Davis. He was 4th in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, and then went to the sidelines and returned on November 9th with a winning effort in a non-winner of 3 other than allowance race. That was a mile on the turf. And now here he is making that turf to dirt move again for the Holland's Holiday today. And that was the same move, by the way, same exact move that Owen Hardy did with him before he won the Remsen. So you can see why he's going to take some money at the windows. We know he's got a lot of talent, and again, he's 2-1 on the morning line. But Cone Campagna looks like he could be the controlling speed, and that's what Bobby Dibona is banking on here today. Yeah, Skippy Longstocking has shown speed in some of his races, not all. He has speed. You expect that he's going to be up close, but I think Cone Campagna might be the faster of the two. But it all depends on who's fastest at the end, right? So we'll see how that race shakes out. If you're wondering, the Harlan's Holiday at Gulfstream today, race number 10, that's going to go right around 4:48 Eastern. Race 11 is the Grade 3 Fort Lauderdale. Steel Sunshine, much different scenario for Dibona. He's 20-1 on the morning line, breaking from the inside post. He's going to need a great trip, and he's going to need his best effort to win that race later today. 5:18 Eastern is the post for the Fort Lauderdale. Again, you can catch the podcast, the entire 1-hour conversation. If you can tell, Bobby Dibona is a colorful guy. He told some great stories. We had a lot of fun in that visit yesterday. Check out Trainer Talk presented by Fasig-Tipton whenever you get some time on our website, on your favorite podcast platform. All right, up next is time for your Legends of the Turf story. Then we'll take a short commercial break, and I'm back with my conversation with Jareth Loveberry, Mr. 2000. He picked up that milestone on December 12th. He talks about it when I return, right after your Legends of the Turf.
There have been performances by horses on the racetrack that bear more than considerable note, and there have been horses of the same milk over a period of time. This is a story of a combination of both, a horse and a performance that are 5-star in every category. Quote, "It won't be the same on Saturdays without Kelso, will it?" said the fat man. That perfunctory statement sums up the whole story. The story of Kelso in the Jockey Club Gold Cup run on the Saturday of Halloween in October of 1964. It was a golden autumn day for a golden thoroughbred. 51,000 fans on hand at Belmont Park, Long Island's grand dame of racing. They had come to pay homage to 1 in a million as a horse. People had waited 40 years for Kelso. There had been nothing like him since Exterminator in the 1920s and Man o' War of the same vintage. There were great horses in the interim: Gallant Fox, Citation, Equipoise, Discovery, Native Dancer, Cavalcade, Count Fleet, 20 Grand, Armed, Swaps, and Tom Fool, to recount just a few. There were some that occupied a very special place in the hearts of racing fans. The beloved Seabiscuit, War Admiral, Whirlaway, Alsab, Stymie, and Carryback, just to name a few. None had that rare and indefinable quality of absolute excellence of Exterminator, Man o' War, and now Kelso. His greatest single contribution to racing was in being a hero, a role model to be loved and admired. not because of physical beauty, since he was actually underweight. And he was awkward and often seemed ill at ease. He was sort of like a homely girl who had donned her very best party dress but was doomed as a wallflower. He had a lackluster coat, and no matter what they tried to do to dress him up, as it were, he was still just plain old Kelso. You had to shake your head at Kelly because you could never imagine him to be a champion among champions. The Jockey Club Gold Cup was virtually a permanent trophy of his, and he'd won it 4 years in a row. Unheard of. But here he was trying to make it 5 in a row at the age of 7 over the grueling 2-mile distance. This was to be the last race run in New York for him. After some 1 3/4 miles of the Great Classic, he was second, right behind the dead game little Roman brother who had given it all he'd had. Then Milo Valenzuela made his move aboard Kelso, and he charged at the leader. There was no need for the crowd to vent an encouraging "Come on, Kelly," as they'd done when he waged his stretch battles with Iron Peg in the Suburban and Gunbow in the Woodward. It was all over at the quarter pole, and everybody there knew it. And then an awesome thing happened. The 51,000 on hand went eerily silent for a moment, and then, just as woe on cue, 102,000 hands began to clap in unison, hands beating rhythmically in time with Kelso's stride. Cadence clapping a la European style for admiration of something special. It was like a Mahler concerto of human emotion. Kelso crossed the wire a winner in his 5th consecutive Jockey Club Gold Cup in a time of 3:19.1, a new track and American record for 2 miles. There was a wistful sadness inherent in the lengthening shadows of that fall afternoon. Summer was taking its last breath. Winter's frostiness lay just around the corner. The world would grow older, and so would Kelso. Like the fat man said, it won't seem like Saturday without Kelso. No, and there probably will never be another Saturday like that one, October 27, 1964, when Kelly won his 5th straight Jockey Club Gold Cup in what may very well have been the single greatest moment in all of thoroughbred racing's marvelous history.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
It's time now to shine the spotlight on the Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week.
Coming home strongly, but Litmus Test has a winning advantage. Litmus Test has defeated Blacksmith by just over a length.
That's Litmus Test, the son of the sensational Darley Stallion Nyquist, winning the Grade 2 Los Alamitos Futurity. He posted a 96 Beyer, and that's a victory worthy of making him your Darley Taking the Reins Performer of the Week. Darley Stallion Nyquist. His 2-year-old son, Litmus Test, became his sire's 10th graded winner of the year, winning the Grade 2 Los Alamitos Futurity, just as his other son, Slow Down Andy, had done in 2021. Nyquist also leads the nation in 2025 by percentage of Grade 1 performers to starters, and stands for a 2026 fee of $175,000 live bull. Learn more about Nyquist and all the Darley Stallions by visiting DarleyAmerica.com.
Coolmore Stallion Corniche, a $1.5 million OBS April sale topper by Quality Road and a 2-time Grade 1 winner.
But it's Corniche. He's just too good. Corniche wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile.
Voted champion 2-year-old male following his win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, it's no surprise his 72 yearlings sold for an average of over $170,000, with a top price colt of $725,000 and a top price filly of $525,000. Corniche standing for only $15,000 at Coolmore's Ashford Stud.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
It's Island Cabana going for the final quarter of a mile. Contraband early with Stone Alliance and My Dad's Guitar. Straightens away for the short stretch in 5th with Island Cabana in charge. Island Cabana comes roaring off the turn. 3/4, 1 at 12.12 seconds. 1 furlong away. Island Cabana leads Regatta Bay by 5 lengths. Contraband early is 3rd. My Dad's Guitar in 4th. Island Cabana, an all-the-way winner. Island Cabana as Jareth Loveberry hits a milestone for his 2,000th career win. Island Cabana wire to first wire. Regatta Bay was second. Contraband Early finished third.
John Dooley with the call. That was a special moment for Jareth Loveberry, and it occurred on December 12th, the 8th race at the fairgrounds. Island Cabana going wire to wire, giving him milestone win number 2,000. The 38-year-old Michigan native began his riding career 20 years ago, and there have been some special moments. Hard to top that one. And he joins us here on the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. Jareth, congratulations, my friend.
Thank you. I won't get tired of hearing that. That was a good call.
Yeah, it was wonderful. What was going through your mind as you were listening back to the call?
Just that moment, just getting that 2,000. It's pretty high mark for where I started. Never thought I could get there. Started riding just to pay for college, and just fell in love with the horses and just kept going.
As Island Cabana turns for home, I believe John Dooley said comes roaring off the turn or something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but it was a pretty good call. Did you know at that point that you were sitting on number 2,000?
I was pretty confident that I had a race won.
When he hits the finish line, what was that moment like?
It's pretty special. Yeah, especially I was doing it for one of my best friends down here. I come here in the winter, and my family stays in Chicago, the wife and kids. And Justin really took me in, and we go to dinner a couple times a week, and I stay with his owners at their house down here. And so winning that race for him, that was pretty special.
How did you celebrate?
Went to dinner.
Yeah, I'm sure you were up early the next day working horses.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we went to dinner early, and, right back to work the next day.
What a moment, and what a career it's been. You said that when you started riding, you never even imagined getting to this point. How come?
Even right when I started, I'm 5'8", and I just always thought size was going to be a deterrent. And I was like, maybe I can make it 5 years of riding. And like I said, I was paying for school. I was in college to be an architect. And that winter, I moved south from Michigan because we're done racing in the summer, and went to Ohio in the winter. And I told everybody, I'm just riding to pay for school. And they said, well, racing gets in your blood, you won't leave. And I never went back.
Yeah, I worked at Pizza Hut in college to make ends meet, so I didn't have the riding bug like you did. How did you get introduced to horses in the first place?
There's a thoroughbred farm right across the street from where I grew up in Michigan, and I walked across the street. I was 12 years old and just started working. We had to work for everything we had, so started working when I was 12 and started getting on the horses probably when I was 13. 14, going to the track, and just stayed with it.
Tell me about making the decision to say, okay, I am going to pursue this as my career as opposed to being an architect.
Well, I was getting a paycheck, and I loved it. Like, everything about the horses, I really do. They give us everything. That's what the sport's about, and I just fell in love with them and everything about it. They're always competing and winning races. There's nothing like it. You winning from the first race I won to winning that race yesterday or the day. Any race you win, it just gives you that euphoria. It's just, you just want it every time.
What do you remember about that first race that you won?
So my fifth start, I got beat in nostril. Horse come and nailed me right at the wire. In my fifth start, I'm like, oh my gosh, I just want to get it. And then it took me a couple starts, and getting that first win, calling my dad, calling my brothers, calling just everybody. It was just a special moment winning that race. And then just every race you win, you just feel so good.
Do you remember the name of the horse with your first winner?
I'm clear for Takeoff, I'm pretty sure. For Harold Cooley.
Was that at Great Lakes Downs, or where was that?
Great Lakes Downs, yep.
Wow. That's Great Lakes Downs. That was a really kind of neat place from what I understand. I never had the chance to visit, but tell me a little bit more about Great Lakes Downs.
It was a little 5/8 bull ring on the west coast of Michigan. It was like real close to the lake, and it's just a really nice town.
Yeah, it seems like a cool place, and I've heard so many great things about it. They said the meet was a lot of fun.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Off days, you go to the lake, and the summers in Michigan, and then there's nothing better. It doesn't get too hot, and then the nighttime you go in a sweatshirt by a bonfire. I mean, that's why I like Minnesota so much, too. I rode there for a few years, and it's just like the same feeling.
When you think back on these 2,000 wins, I'm sure that there are plenty of moments that stand out to you, Jareth. But what are some of your personal favorite moments in your career?
Some of my favorite moments would probably have to be winning my first race after having my daughter. So I left the hospital and went and won 2 races that next day. So that was a special moment. Winning on 2 fills to get into the Kentucky Derby, that was big. I don't know if I went to sleep that night, just laying there like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? And those are probably a couple of my favorite wins.
What was that Derby experience like for you?
It was big. It took me 18 years to get there, and you have it build up something in your mind that it's unattainable just from where I was starting. And once you're in it, and I was well prepared for it. I had watched all the races, all the other horses' races, and just try to ride it like another race. But you get out there, 150,000 people watching. It's a special moment to run second that year, and you can't get that back. That's a good feeling. Teams
will talk about getting to the Super Bowl for the first time and trying to approach it as if it's just another football game, but we know it's not, and we know that's really not possible. Were you able to approach the Kentucky Derby as just another horse race?
I think I did pretty well doing that. I never let it build up too much, and I really did. I really just focused on the horse, what we had to do. I studied everything, what I had to do, where I thought I'd be, where I wanted to be, and I think I did pretty good job of putting that part of it out.
Is that part of your normal preparation day in and day out, studying the competition?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. You got to know not just the horses, the riders, the trainers' tendencies, and just trying to figure out where they think they want, where I think that they think they want to be, and just what my horse likes. So a lot of studying goes into it every day.
I've had plenty of jockeys come on the show with me over the years and talk about coming onto the track to the playing of my old Kentucky home for the very first time. And almost every jockey will tell me it's emotional. Was it emotional for you?
You know, I got lucky because when I came on, I couldn't hear it. I couldn't hear it, and I was trying to listen for it, but I didn't quite hear it till it was almost over. And I'm like, actually kind of glad that I didn't, because it was, every time I watched the Derby, and you hear it, it is emotional just watching it. So I didn't quite hear it, so I was like, okay, that's good.
2 Fills ends up runner-up in that Kentucky Derby, ran a monster race. What was it like flying through the stretch with him?
Oh, man, when I cut the corner and I made the lead, and I really thought I had it. And Mage come and got us near the end, and he was a special horse to get us into that position. And I don't think I could thank the horse enough. He was very special.
How about Chunk of Gold? He did okay for you too.
Oh, for sure. I mean, he ran his heart out. He tries every race he runs in. And getting back there for a second time, I didn't know if I could get it once, and I've been there twice. And that horse, he tries every time he runs.
Jareth Loveberry, my special guest here on HRRN. Last week you heard from jockey Rajiv Miraj talking about win number 2,000. Now Jareth Loveberry follows suit with his 2,000th career victory coming at the Fairgrounds on December 12th. Jareth, we talked about some of the horses that are special to you. How about some of the people that have helped you get to this point along the way?
Oh, my wife, Stacy, she's been there pretty much from the start. I've been riding for 20 years. She's been with me for 19. I mean, we've come from the bottom. I mean, I've gotten hurt. The first year we were together, I was hurt for 10 months. I couldn't move my shoulder after a surgery, and she was right out of high school cutting hair. And, I mean, we didn't have much going for us, but she's always believed in me, pushed me in the right direction, and she's been my biggest supporter, and she's my biggest critic. If I mess up in a race, she's the first one on my phone and say, "Hey, you messed that one up." So she's been there for me. So some trainers like Larry Ravelli, he's really got me going in the right direction. There was when I was at Mountaineer, Bill Martin, Joe Martin brothers, they've helped me out a lot. Mac Robertson when I was in Minnesota, and I mean, there's many, many more people that have helped me, but those are some big names.
You ever think what your life would be like if you stayed in school and became an architect?
I wouldn't trade what I do for anything.
Well, and you shouldn't. 2,000 wins. There are plenty more to come. You've already started to add on to that total. What are some of the goals you set for yourself from going forward?
Just keep winning. I just show up every day. I do my best, come out and work, and I just want to just keep going.
Jareth, I hope you do that, and I hope you have a safe trip every time you get a leg up, my friend. Happy holidays to you and to Stacy and the kids. Enjoy every minute of being out there on horseback. I know you love it.
No, thank you, guys.
Yeah, congratulations again.
Appreciate it.
That's Jareth Loveberry here on HRRN. Boy, pretty well grounded too, isn't he? And it was such cool to have him talk about. It was so cool to have him talk about two fills and that run in the Kentucky Derby, thinking he had it when he turns for home. I remember having a conversation with Jesus Castanon talking about that with Shackelford. When you turn for home and the roar of the crowd, there's nothing like it. I mean, there's only one Kentucky Derby, and it's a special moment, even if you don't win. That moment sticks with you, and it stuck with Jareth Loveberry, and he's going to have plenty more big moments down the road because he can really, as they say, he can really horseback. Tremendous rider, a great family guy, and so nice to have him with me here on the show this morning. All right, going to get to a short break, going to come back with more. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Woodford Feed, where tradition merges with technology. Family owned since 1940 and providing exceptional customer service, Woodford Feed specializes in the highest quality feed, using only the finest ingredients to ensure optimal nutrition for your horses. In addition, Woodford Feed can help with all your farm needs, including field seed, fertilizer, and weed control. So whether your horse is sprinting around the racetrack or has a foal by her side, count on Woodford Feed to provide the quality nutrition necessary to perform at the highest level. Woodford Feed, Versailles, Kentucky.
Dear Vet Ticks, it was nice to spend the night with my daughter and other veterans. It's so humbling to attend an event when you feel appreciated.
I had a wonderful time with my family. Thank you for the memories, Vet Ticks.
Dear Vet Ticks, thank you for a great experience and for your support of the military and veterans.
Thank you so much, Vet Ticks. Our family has gone through a lot the last few years, and this gave us a nice break.
Every empty seat at a concert, game, or special event is a missed opportunity to say thank you to a veteran or a service member. By giving your extra tickets to Vet Ticks, you'll help America's heroes reduce stress, strengthen family bonds, and create a truly happy memory that will last a lifetime. So when you really want to say thank you for your service, give the experience, give the memory. Vet Ticks. Give something to those who gave. For more information on how you can make a difference, go to vettix.org.
James Brown and Bill Cowher welcoming you back to Dennis Melvin's house. It's time for the Midnight Snack Run.
This is one tricky obstacle course. Sticking to healthy habits in this kitchen is going to take focus and determination, but it can be done, JB.
He's already entered the snack part of the course, and he's eyeballing a jar of chocolatey candy.
That is tempting right off the start.
Uh-oh, he's reaching, Bill, but he pushes it away.
Great stiff arm.
He's approaching a plate of delicious-looking iced cookies.
Oh, Dennis, you only want one of those.
He blows right by him for the apple.
Oh, the fridge. It's make or break time, JB.
He stares down some rich-looking treats. Uh-oh, looks like he's headed for the soda. Wait, he jukes left, grabs the water bottle, and shuts the door with his elbow in record time.
Unbelievable move. I gotta see that again.
And he's out. He even turned off the light.
That's the way you execute a midnight snack run.
Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer.
Go to takeahealthystand.org.
Thursday evenings, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern, is the Brisnet.com call-in show. It's your chance to call in and let the Horse Racing Radio Nation know what's on your mind. Call us at 888-966-HRRN. That's 888-966-4776. And discuss the topics you choose in the world of thoroughbred racing. The Brisnet.com call-in show. Sirius 162, XM 207, and streaming live at horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Liberty National comes through. Here's Liberty National now, up into third with a nifty ride, saving ground every step of the way, and tips off cover for the run by the quarter pole. Farther back, Swiftblade is picking it up, and Market Runner's in with a shot as well. They're off the turn. Albus down inside. Here's Liberty National. Liberty National has rallied to the front and kicks on to lead by 2. Albus gives way. Maximum Effort gives way. Stirring Words trying to get up into second with Market Runner, but Liberty National in a stylish win and perhaps a better ride wins by 5. Stirring Words, Albus, and Market Runner.
That's Travis Stone with the call. Liberty National breaking his maiden with style. November 29th at Churchill Downs, the son of Darley Stallion Maxfield, rolling to victory by 4 1/4 lengths under jockey Brian Hernandez Jr. He'll be back aboard later today in the Gun Runner Stakes. And I think every jockey would love to hear the announcers say that after every race, talking about the performance and then maybe a better ride. I think any jockey would take that. You just heard from Jareth Loveberry when I asked him about what's next for him. Just keep winning races. Just keep going. It's a great quote. And that was and by the way, Brian Hernandez Jr. coming up at 9 o'clock Eastern. You're going to hear from him along with trainer Kenny McPeek. Kenny, the trainer of Liberty National. He'll give a leg up to Brian later today. As a matter of fact, Kenny has 7 horses entered at the fairgrounds. 5 of those going to be ridden by Brian. The other 2 going to be ridden by Brian's younger brother, Colby. So we'll talk about that coming up in just a few minutes as well, 9 Eastern. But what I loved about Jareth Loveberry in that conversation you just heard is when he started talking about the early days, just riding horses to pay for college. That's all it was. It was just a job to pay for college. And it turned into this brilliant career, and now he's won 2,000 races. Thought about being an architect. He was going to school to be an architect. It's funny how life takes you on those paths, right? If Jareth Loveberry, now I know he's not a household name like a Jerry Bailey, or an Arad Ortiz Jr., a John Velasquez. But he's a good rider. And he's among the top riders at the fairgrounds year in and year out. And he's off to another fast start again this meet. But you just wonder, like, if he had stayed in school, if he had said, this isn't for me, I'm just going to go on and be an architect, what his life would have looked like and how much different it would have been. Yeah, I really enjoyed that conversation with Jareth. And, again, more coming your way with Brian Hernandez Jr., Kenny McPeek in a few minutes. Kurt Becker going to join me in the second hour of the program as well, 9:35 Eastern. Kurt, as you know, for all of you who listen, and I appreciate that every single week, you enjoy Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments. Well, I thought this morning, with the year winding down, it would be fun to have Kurt join us and share his thoughts on some of the favorite pieces he put together throughout the year. And he's chosen 5, his top 5. And at 9:35, we're going to go back through and we'll find out why Kurt enjoyed each of those pieces so much and the subjects that he was focusing on in those pieces. Horses like Smarty Jones and Rachel Alexandra are going to be part of that conversation. So stay tuned for that. Poll question for you this morning. What is the best racing-related Christmas gift you've ever received? I want to know. What's the best racing-related Christmas gift you have ever received? You can go to our social media pages to let us know, at HRRN on X, Horse Racing Radio Network on Facebook, or you can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net. Do you get the sense that we could be looking at a superstar in Liberty National? I know it's early. You say, all right, come on, Barron. The horse has had 2 starts. He finished 6th in his first race, and then he ends up looking good, getting a big number, drawing off to win, breaking his maiden, the call you just heard. Yeah, it's early, and that's part of the fun of this time of year. But boy, did he do things the right way in that win. Young horses oftentimes just want to get to the front and go. And we talk about maturity. Liberty National, sitting back, when Brian Hernandez said go in that race at Churchill Downs on November 29th, he went. And he exploded. And he ran away from the field. Now, who he was beating, we don't know. He gets a much stiffer test today with some more accomplished rivals in the Gunrunner Stakes. But he did things the right way. Mike Maker sends out Crown the Buckeye, ridden by Jareth Loveberry. He figures to take some money. He has some early speed. Matter of fact, maybe the controlling speed in that Gunrunner Stakes today. Ken McPeek, also represented in that race by Very Connected. I mentioned Colby Hernandez getting the leg up there. 9-2 on the morning line. He's only 1 for 5. He's won 1 race and 5 starts. But after breaking his maiden, Kenny said, okay, that was good. Now we're going to put you in the grade 3 Street Sense. See what you got. Ends up finishing 3rd to Incredible. A lot of people liking Incredible for Riley Mott. He ends up finishing 3rd. He's beaten 4 lengths in the Street Sense. Kenny, as he often is, undeterred, puts him right back in the grade 2 Kentucky Jockey Club. And he finishes 4th on November 29th. Behind Further Ado, who looks like he could be special. For Brad Cox, remember Further Ado breaks his maiden by 20 lengths? And then wins the Kentucky Jockey Club. Both of his races since stretching out have been really, really impressive. But Very Connected, another horse, doesn't have a lot of speed. He'll be coming from far back. So the ride has to be timed perfectly. And I'm curious, too, and I'll ask Brian this question in a few minutes. Brian rode Very Connected in his first 2 career starts, August 9th and August 31st. Now Colby gets aboard for the first time. Brian's racing against Colby. They're rivals when the gates open. How much insight does Brian give to his brother about this horse? And does Colby go to Brian and try to pick his brain to see what he can find out? I'll ask him that question coming up in just a few minutes. That's going to be a really fun conversation with Kenny and with Brian. And as I mentioned, Kenny has plenty to talk about because not only does he have those horses in the stakes races at the fairgrounds today, but he has a horse in the Tinsel Stakes at Oaklawn, and he's represented in a couple of stakes at Remington Park, including the Springboard Mile, which, if you're just joining us, I mentioned it at the top of the show, that's been a sneaky, productive race when it comes to giving us horses who've gone on to do some pretty big things. Not necessarily in the Kentucky Derby, but later in their careers. Will Take Charge, runner-up in the Springboard Mile in 2012. Well, we know he did okay. Senor Buscador, he turned out okay. He won the Springboard Mile. And then last year we had the great human interest story in Coal Battle and trainer Lonnie Briley getting to the Kentucky Derby for the very first time. So keep an eye on that Springboard Mile today if you're looking for a horse that we could be talking about not necessarily maybe on the road to the Kentucky Derby, but certainly later in their careers. It just tends to happen that way. All right, hour 2 coming your way next, right after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
Rolling on, hour 2 of 3. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch, with you on this Saturday morning. 5 days away from Christmas. Winding down 2025, but the racing action continues to be strong, and it's going to pick up over the next several weeks as well. If you missed any portion of the first half of the program, first hour of the program, my conversation with Bobby Dibona or Jareth Loveberry, you can head back to the website, horseracingradio.net, to listen to the podcast whenever you have some time. And you can do that, too, on any podcast platform. So wherever you get your podcast, type in Horse Racing Radio Network. You'll find our shows there, not just the Equine Forum, but all the shows we bring your way each and every week throughout the year. And I want to extend, before we go any further, a very special thank you to all of you in HRRN Nation who join us and support us and listen to us all year long. It is greatly appreciated. Without you, we don't have a show. All of our sponsors. Without our sponsors, we don't have a show. We don't have a network. It's been like that for more than 20 years now. We can't thank you enough. From the bottom of my heart, I wish all of you a very Merry Christmas, a very happy holiday season. If you missed the impossible trivia question at the top of the show, I'm going to give it to you again right now. The answer comes your way 10:55 Eastern. Who was the very last horse to win a race on Christmas Day in the United States? Think about that one for a minute. No Googling. I'll pass along the answer 10:55 Eastern right after I visit with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin for I Ask, They Answer, and plenty of things to talk about with them, too. If you're going to be in Lexington over the course of the next month, 2 months, whatever, your travels are going to take you there for whatever, make sure you stop in and see the folks at Tony's of Lexington. Can't say enough good things about Tony's. I've been talking about them for years after approaching Tony Ricci, the owner, and saying, hey, this is the greatest steak I've ever had anywhere, and I love steak. Let me talk about you on my show. And he was generous enough to do that, and every week I get to tell you about how awesome the food is at Tony's. The steaks are unbeatable. Truly the greatest steak I've ever had. My wife just can't get enough of the every time I bring up going to dinner somewhere, I want to go to Tony's. I want to go to Tony's. I want to go to Tony's. You should go to Tony's too. Make your reservations now because they are going to be busy. Call them, get in, enjoy a wonderful meal, great people, wonderful atmosphere. It's Tony's of Lexington on Main Street, right behind Rupp Arena. Well, I mentioned Brian Hernandez Jr., Kenny McPeek. They are set to join me now. It's a busy day for Kenny. Kenny, I'm going to start with you, my friend. You have 7 horses entered at the fairgrounds. 5 are ridden by Brian Hernandez and 2 by his brother Colby, all in the family.
Yeah, for sure. Unfortunately, a couple of them are going to be out, or maybe one. Barrick's isn't going to run, so that's the maiden in the later race. And then Sir Grayland, we're on the fence on whether we're going to run him today. We've got a little foot issue. We're going to have to decide here late morning whether he goes. But the rest of them we're quite excited about. Let's start with the gun runner for a minute. Very Connected will be ridden by Colby. Liberty National by Brian. That last race by Liberty National was fantastic. He's a beast, Mike. I mean, this is a next level horse. Ultra impressive there. I mean, if you see him, people should look at him physically because he's massive. This horse has a good, healthy spring and summer. You're going to be reading a lot about it. Yeah, I said earlier we could be looking at a budding superstar. Brian, you were aboard Liberty National in that maiden win November 29th at Churchill. What did you feel underneath you?
Yeah, he was ultra impressive that day. He sat there and kind of worked out the perfect trip, and like Kenny was saying, he's so athletic that he was able to just kind of, give us a really, really smooth trip, and he powered home nicely. You know, he ran a quick time, and he looks like a horse that's on the upswing.
You know, you and Kenny have had so much success together. Mystic Dan comes to mind, Torpedo Anna, Horse of the Year. Those are the big names, but you have ridden horses for Kenny McPeek for a long time. What makes it click?
No, I mean, it's a great working relationship where, I mean, we all just show up and do our jobs, and fortunately, Kenny finds us some really, really good horses to ride, and it makes my job really easy. I know if we go out there and give them a good, clean trip, we'll have the horse to finish, and it all goes back to the horses more than anything. You know, just having the right horses and in the right races, and letting them show how talented they are.
Kenny, how about for you? Why do you continue to be confident every time you give a leg up to Brian?
Well, he's a Mr. Professional. I mean, you know, when we work horses, he's there early, and he knows all the horses. He's not scared of morning work. And, you know, I think probably what people don't realize is that how horses move underneath him. I think that's the reason why I use him, because when he's in a race, he gets horses in nice rhythm, and he's good at timing the finish. And, you know, look, they're giving me better horses, or at least I've got a better budget at auction. And I'm going to tell you, our outfit's going to be stronger and stronger with that kind of, you know, sourcing of money to work with. And it does, like Brian says, it comes down to the stock, and that really comes down to clientele. And, you know, I work for a lot of really wonderful people right now.
Yeah, that's it. You know, thinking about Kenny McPeek being even stronger in the future is a scary thought for the rest of the competition out there. Because Kenny, you saddled nearly 2,200 winners. You're closing in on that milestone, and if you're going to have better stock, look out. This could be really fun going forward.
Well, I like to think that we built a foundation that, you know, we haven't risen quickly. We've been, you know, through my career, I've just kind of step-laddered it, and I think when you do that, you've got a good foundation of people and horses, and then you can, you know, feel a little more confident when you go over there with the better horses you got.
Kenny, tell me about your other gun runner entrant, Very Connected.
You know, not a horse to be dismissed. I think he wants this longer stretch, but I do think he's a bit of a setup horse, that he needs pace in the race, and he's a little bit compromised because he doesn't have a lot of early speed. You know, he's a connect like Rattle and Roll is in later today, you know. And Rattle and Roll is a pace setup horse, and this colt's similar. But, you know, he's going to have to find another level. We've worked him and Liberty National together. And, you know, Liberty National might be the better horse at this stage. But you're going to see this colt. You know, it's going to be hard to separate some of these. I mean, this morning we worked Universe, and we also worked Sleeping on Freedom, or two that are going to go to Oakland. So we've got a lot of some 3-year-olds that are going to be participating in some of these Derby preps. It's going to be fun.
I mentioned Colby Hernandez. Brian, your younger brother, going to be riding Very Connected. So you are rivals when the gates open in that gun runner later today. How does this work, Kenny? Do you say, okay, Brian, I want you on this horse, Colby, I want you on this horse, or do they come to you and tell you which horse they feel they suit better?
No, I decide. You know, it depends on how they ones they've ridden already, but in the case of Very Connected, actually Manny Esquivel's done a really good job on him, but he's at Oakland today, so we couldn't split him up. And I thought it's a good spot for Colby. Colby knows this racetrack at the fairgrounds like as well as anybody, and he does. He's part of our team too, and we give him an opportunity to see if he can get him there. And that colt, you know, I see the Louisiana series being Very Connected path. I see Florida is going to probably be the path for Liberty National, but that's to be determined. The ownership of Liberty National lives in Palm Beach, and so I think it's going to be a little bit easier for him to see him if we go there. So we're going to have to work on keeping them all separated, and it's going to be hard for Brian to ride all of them, and we're going to have to figure that out too.
Brian, if you and Colby hook up with these two horses in the stretch and you're battling nose to nose down to the wire, how do you make sure you outfinish your younger brother?
You just go off of experience, I guess. Knowing both horses, they're both really talented, but we think Liberty National, when they worked together, Liberty National was a little better than Very Connected last week. But like Kenny was just saying, they're both really talented horses. You can't dismiss either one of them. And hopefully if we do get to the 8th pole and we're nose and nose, we just got to try to be the first one to the wire.
What's Colby's biggest strength as a rider?
I think just like knowing this racetrack, and then as well, he works hard in the mornings. He's there every morning, and he shows up. And anytime we have workers, and we know we can count on him to be there and help us out around the barn in the mornings.
You rode very connected in his first 2 starts of his career. Do you go to Colby and give him any insight about this horse, considering it's all in the same family with Kenny McPeek, or does Colby come to you and ask you about this horse at all?
Yeah, we'll talk about it a little bit this afternoon when we get into the jocks room. But he knows the horse as well. He's worked him his last couple of times since he's been here in New Orleans, and he's kind of gotten to know the horse. And the good thing about that horse is he seems to be getting better with each race. I know when I rode him first time out at Colonial, it was typical first timer. He was just a little green and kind of figuring things out, and kind of gave him a good schooling race that day, and he seemed to learn a lot. And he showed it when he came back and won at Churchill with Manny Escobar. And like I said, he's just the type of horse where he seems to be on the improve and getting better and better each start.
Kenny, how about Miss Call in the Untappable? 3rd last time out. Brian was aboard in that starter allowance race at Churchill. Tell me about Miss Call.
Well, she got mugged in her last race. I mean,
yeah.
that race is complete throwout. She probably wins by 5 or 6 if that didn't happen. And Brian was pretty conservative with her after she got mugged leaving there. And she came out without a shoe. And, she really should have won off easily. But those things happen. He only really let her run the last quarter of a mile, and she still ran 3rd. And it's a filly that's going the right direction, too. And it doesn't look like a deep spot to me.
Yeah, Brian, tell me about that last race. Take me through that race.
Yeah, that was a tough trip. We went in there thinking she couldn't lose, and the first jump out of the gate, the inside horse came out and completely knocked her off her feet, and she almost fell down. She clipped heels, and once she got up, we were so far behind the rest of the field that we were kind of playing catch up the whole way, and she was just trying to kind of get her legs back under, and then finally the last quarter of a mile she came with a big run, but it was just a really, really rough trip, and she had to overcome a lot that day, and for her to jump up and still be 3rd like she was, she was impressive. So we're looking for a big effort today.
Brian Hernandez Jr., Ken McPeek here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. Kenny, I know it's a busy morning and you got to get going, but just a quick word on Rattle and Roll, Take Charge Milady, and Supreme Good.
Well, Take Charge Milady is going to be scrapped, and we're waiting for a January 1st Oaklawn race.
Okay.
There's a restricted filly race that weekend. And then, Rattle and Roll, which we all know really well. We love the old Warrior. He ran a good last time at Churchill, but I wanted to put him in someplace and let him win. And there's a chance that he could go back to Saudi Arabia after this race. Right now, we're kind of contemplating what direction. If he wins, better than average chance that he goes to the King's Cup in Riyadh. And then if he runs well in the King's Cup, he'll go Saudi Cup. And, he ran 5th in the Saudi Cup last year. It makes $1 million to run 5th. So, we're not shy about that. And if he runs a little bit better, and I do think this year he's better than he was last year, at least physically, he's moving better. And it could take him to Dubai. We'll see. But he's another one. It's got to set up for him. He's not a horse that could have a dawdling pace. And if he's beatable, it'll be because the pace of the race isn't there. And, of course, we got to leave that up to Joel. So, and then you asked me about, Supreme Good. So
yeah,
that horse's last race in New York was ultra impressive. And, he's European bred. And he did, well, you couldn't run him in Kentucky because you couldn't make a case on the KTDF money. And we couldn't get a race that really fit him in New York, so we brought him south. And I actually was leaning towards running him in a other than at Oaklawn. And I've got another horse for the same client that we're going to run in the A other than. So we decided to opt to, we went left with one and right with the other. And he could surprise today. I think he's 8-1 morning line. Would love to see one of the favorites come out. We can't control that, but I think you'll see that horse run a bang-up race. He's fast, and this distance, he could win.
Kenny, appreciate it, my man. Merry Christmas to you, to your family. Brian, stay with me for a minute. I've got a couple more questions for you. But, Kenny, I'll let you go and do your thing. Really appreciate you making time.
No worries. Thank you.
All right. Brian, listen, you're coming back from that injury, and you and I talked on this very same show when you joined Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin and myself, and you were part of I Ask, They Answer, and you talked about getting back in the saddle, getting stronger, and you've done it. How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. The first week of Churchill was a little rough. We kind of jumped back in with both feet and overdid it, I think, a little bit between the morning works and the riding a few too many in the afternoons. But after we got over that hurdle, it's been good. We rode the last 2 weeks at Churchill and got a couple good 2-year-olds out of the deal, and now we're kind of here in New Orleans just getting back into the full swing of things. Today will be kind of the real first day that I ride quite a few, but we're looking forward to it.
How long does it take a jockey when they're down with an injury like that and they miss a significant amount of time the way you did? And my goodness, you went through an awful lot being in the hospital and all of those types of things. But how long does it take a jockey to get back to full strength?
I think it just goes off your own personality. Each individual is different, and for me, it probably took those 2 weeks at Churchill just to kind of get back into the routine of things. To go from riding and then sitting around and being injured for 8 weeks and just trying to get your timing back and get horses to kind of respond to you and get back in the groove of things. It takes a couple weeks, I'm guessing. That's as in my case, it took me a couple weeks, but now we're kind of back into the full ride of it, and it's all kind of clicking again.
Yeah, I grew up playing baseball. I never rode horses, obviously, because I like horses too much. I'm a big guy. I can't get aboard them. Plus, I can't ride. So I grew up playing baseball, and you would hear people talk about timing with hitters all the time. You got to get your timing down. And if you were out with an injury, it took you a little time to get your timing back. And you mentioned timing for a jockey. What is timing for a jockey?
Yeah, it's just getting back into the rhythm of things. You have to go out there and remind yourself, even though you're going 40 miles an hour, you have to just keep reminding yourself, just slow things down, make everything conscious, and just take your time and think about what you're doing. And that's kind of what it takes to get your timing right, is just going out there and getting the horses in a nice rhythm and making sure you give them the best trip. And that's kind of where the timing comes involved, is you just need to be able to have the whole process really thought out.
Are you a big workout guy?
I like to jog, and especially when I'm here in New Orleans, I'll go and I go jog here in City Park. It's about a mile from my house, and kind of do those things.
And that's enough to keep you fit.
Yeah, it keeps you fit, and it just it gets everything going just to where you're ready to go for the afternoons.
All right, Kenny's gone now. You can say whatever you want about him.
Oh no, he's great. I've been fortunate enough to ride for Kenny for quite a few years now, and it's a great job. I mean, he puts a lot of confidence in us, and we ride really good horses for him. So it makes my job really easy. Knowing going out there, if I don't give a horse, especially like in the filly in today, Miss Call, I didn't give her a very good trip last time, and he never hesitated. He let me ride her back today, so that makes my job a whole lot easier, knowing that even if we don't have the best trip that day, we don't have to worry about not riding them back. We'll get another opportunity with them. So it makes it to where when you go out there in the afternoons, you can go out there with a lot of confidence, and it makes things a lot easier.
How much of that bad trip was you, and how much of it was the circumstances of the race and what happened with the other horses?
It was about probably 80% the circumstances leaving the gate when she got completely wiped out, and then after that I let her drop too far back, and then once I did that, we were kind of out of the race, and so I had to take fault in that. But like I said, she overcame it and came with a really big run.
Does Liberty National give you the feeling that this could be a really top-class horse going forward?
Yeah, he seems to be. For only his second start and first time around 2 turns last time there at Churchill in a full 12-horse field, he overcame some adversity early in the trip, and for him to power on like he did. He ran a really fast time that day at Churchill, and he showed a lot of promise for a young horse to only make his second start. He looks like the horse that he's going to go forward, and it put a lot of confidence in me that day at Churchill as well, because Jose Ortiz had ridden him first time out, and before the race he came back and he told me how much he liked him. So we kind of went into that race thinking that he had a really, really big chance.
It's interesting, Brian. I was going back through and preparing for the show, and of course you've won 2,760 races coming into today. Your brother Colby, people don't give him the credit he deserves. He's won over 2,500. He's only a couple hundred wins behind you for his entire career.
Yeah, he's ridden here in Louisiana most of his career, and he's had a lot of winners and he's been successful. It's tough to get that national recognition when you don't have the stock and you're not riding, on the bigger circuits. But he's had a great career in his own right. It always boils down to you just need the right horses on the right days, and once you get lucky and get those kind of opportunities, you have to make the most of it, and that's what he's trying to do.
I can't tell you how many jockeys have come on this show over the years and tell me it's the horse that gives you the confidence. It's what's underneath you that gives you the confidence. That's about as simple as it gets.
That's it. When you go out there and you ride a really good horse and they take you around there, it makes everyone's job so much easier. You can only do what you have underneath you, and when you're riding a lot of cheap bad horses, it makes your job really hard. But when you do get that opportunity to ride a really good horse, they'll take you there.
Well, Brian, after you appeared on I Asked the Answer a couple of months ago, I was getting emails. I actually got one from a listener who said, if Brian doesn't make it back, you need to hire him because that guy's really good on the radio. So if you ever decide to give up this riding gig, you got a home with me.
Oh, perfect. I'll be giving you a call then.
All right, pal. Listen, I appreciate it. I know you've got things to get to as well. I appreciate you spending a little extra time. Good luck today, and more importantly, safe trip every time you get a leg up, and Merry Christmas to you and to the family.
Thanks, Mike. Merry Christmas to you guys as well, and it's always great to be on the show.
All right, we'll talk to you soon, bud. Brian Hernandez Jr. here on HRN. Ken McPeek, when I asked him about Liberty National, he said this horse is a beast, right? He talked about physically and how big he is, and he certainly looked like a beast in that last win. Now, he has to continue, just like all the horses, he has to continue to develop, to mature mentally, but he said if he has a good winter and spring, you're going to be hearing a lot about Liberty National going forward. So that now, Ken McPeek likes a lot of his horses. He's like talking to Dale Romans, right? Dale likes a lot of his horses. But the proof's in the pudding here, and he looked like the real deal, winning his maiden. And if he can do it again in the Gun Runner and he impresses, then yeah. And Kenny said maybe the trip, the road to the Kentucky Derby for him goes through Florida. They may send him to Florida. That's still yet to be determined. We will see. All of those decisions still have to be made with so many of these young 2-year-olds getting ready to turn 3. And I loved Brian's very candid answer about missed call and that starter allowance race last time where she had all kinds of trouble. Kenny thought she should have won easily if she didn't get in trouble. And Brian said he was about 20% the problem, but 80% of it was the circumstances of the race. You got to believe that the way she was affected in there, if she gets a clean trip today in the untappable stakes, she can be right there. But I think that's a little more of a wide open race, at least in terms of what you're looking at with the morning line and the contenders that are in there. It seems a bit more wide open to me than the Gun Runner, where I think you can focus on maybe 3 of those horses in there and say, okay, these are the likely winners. Doesn't mean they're going to win, but they look like they could be really tough. All right, Kurt Becker still to come, 9:35 Eastern. He is going to share his thoughts on his favorite Stroll Through Racing History stories that he's put together for you here in 2025. I think you're really going to enjoy that segment. When I come back, I'm going to bring you, it's a tradition here on the network, the show right before Christmas. I've done this for years. I play a story called Reprieve, and it was put together and voiced by my mentor and the man who started the network with me all those years ago, Pete Coulis. Pete passed away in 2010, and he left us with so many wonderful things, including those Legends of the Turf segments that you hear every week on the show. That is one way for me to keep Pete involved and show my respect for everything he did for me and everything I learned from him. Well, this next story, so many of you love it. You contact me every year and say, are you going to play, or I'm so glad you played that story. It's voiced by Pete, and it is done to the cadence that in the light of A Night Before Christmas. But it's a horse racing story. I think you're going to love it. That comes up next. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The National HBPA is continuously working to protect the health and welfare of horses by advocating and funding research to help reduce equine injuries, lobbying for a national testing lab to oversee and establish absolute uniform laboratory protocols, advocating for every track to undergo an annual independent surface assessment, passionately supporting off-the-track thoroughbred retirement facilities and adoption groups, and so much more. See additional HBPA initiatives at nationalhbpa.com.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
A little Christmas music to get you in the mood. 5 days away. Final show before Christmas, and every year, as I just told you on this show, right before Christmas or right around Christmas, I bring you this story from Pete Coulis called Reprieve. I think you'll enjoy it.
The last race was coming. He now had to score. $2 in his pocket. He needed no more. The odds board had flashed. He had the right one. His horse was named Info at 40-1. He glanced at his program. Could this horse get beat? Not a chance in the world. He had studied the sheet. He reached in his pocket and fingered his ones. $2 to his name, but he had the right one. He went to the window and waited in line. He looked at the racetrack. His horse looked just fine. He called out his number. The man punched it out. That small piece of paper would give cause to shout. He walked to the rail, clutching hope in his hand. The horses parading in front of the stand. The crowd was now milling. The start was now near. He fingered his ticket and trembled with fear. Now the money he'd lost, he could not afford. But Info would win it, and then he'd have scored. His hands had grown sweaty. The start was at hand. When post time was sounded, his legs felt like sand. The field was in line in the green starting gate. His ticket on Info, now a matter of fate. The gates now flew open, the field thundered out. Info on the inside was shuffled about. The horses were flying to the half-mile pole. Info was 7th and looking for a hole. They went to the far turn, the favorite in front. Info lay 7th and far from the front. At the top of the stretch, 'twas the favorite by 5, but Info was moving for the long stretch drive. They came to the 8th pole. The favorite had quit. Now Info was 4th on the outside a bit. As they drove to the wire, they were 4 horses wide. Info in the middle with a powerful stride. They flashed past the wire, only noses apart. A photo was called for, not good for the heart. The long wait was torture, for nobody knew who really had won it, but he felt he knew. It had to be Info, his mind filled with fear. If Info had lost it, what more could he fear? The numbers were posted. He stood there aghast, for Info had lost it. The die was now cast. He stood by the rail till all had gone home. Still clutching his ticket, he dared not to roam. A breeze had now risen as he stood there alone, swirling bunches of tickets in the form of a cone. The ticket was crumpled. He clutched it so hard, like a small piece of paper one would find in the yard. He opened the ticket and shouted with glee. With this winning ticket, he gained a reprieve. For rather than info, he had number 3, a winner, for a whopping 203.
And again, that story put together by the late Pete Coulis. He gave us so many things that we still use on the show today that just absolutely brilliant. I love that story, and I hope you enjoyed it too. When I come back, I will welcome Kurt Becker to the program. We're going to spend some time strolling through 2025 and his Stroll Through Racing History memories. Should be some wonderful stories coming up in the next segment. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Coolmore Stallion Corniche, a $1.5 million OBS April sale topper by Quality Road and a 2-time Grade 1 winner.
But it's Corniche! He's just too good! Corniche wins the Breeders' Cup Juvenile!
Voted champion 2-year-old male following his win in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, it's no surprise his 72 yearlings sold for an average of over $170,000, with a top-price colt of $725,000 and a top-price filly of $525,000. Corniche standing for only $15,000 at Coolmore's Ashford Stud.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
A dramatic stretch drive awaits in the Woodward Stakes. On the outside, here's Bulls Bay and Calvin Morrell imploring his filly for more. And Rachel Alexandra holds on to the lead. Bulls Bay is second. Macho again is making a tremendous run for the back of the pack. Rachel Alexandra, Macho again. They're coming down to the finish. It's going to be desperately close. Here's the wire. Rachel won. She is indeed Rachel Alexandra the Great.
Welcome back to the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. Mike Penna with you on this Saturday morning. That call by Tom Durkin still gives me chills. I remember sitting at our broadcast position, which was out back by the old shoe board, by the paddock at Saratoga, and you could almost feel the ground shaking as Rachel Alexandra was coming down the stretch that day. And Tom Durkin just nailed it, as he did so many times throughout his career. What a wonderful call. And another guy who knows a thing or two about calling one hell of a horse race is my dear friend Kurt Becker. He's the announcer at Keeneland and the man who puts together our Stroll Through Racing History segments presented by Keeneland that you hear every week on the show. Kurt, happy holidays, my friend. Good morning.
Hey, Mike, also to you. Good to be with you.
Yeah, listening back to that call, boy, did that bring back some memories. But how good was Tom Durkin in that moment?
Oh, I tell you, when Tom was still active as a race caller, I was usually reluctant to get involved in too many discussions publicly, just because I always worry that you never want to be perceived as a track announcer like you're simply trying to curry favor, like, oh, I hope if I say something nice about Tom, he'll do something for me someday. But now that he is retired, I tell you, to me, as I look back on the 10 years or so that have passed since he hung up the microphone, I am amazed. He was very bold as a race caller in the way he went at it his own way. He was so descriptive, but he could do that because he had a connection with the fans and with the betting public. That's why he could do what he did. The public respected him so much.
Yeah, he had a theater background, and that really showed in so many of his race calls. I always said that he could bring a race to life like no other caller. He would let it build to a crescendo at the end, which I guess is what you want to do, but the way he would describe the action, it was tailor-made for radio, Kurt, because if you were sitting there listening and you couldn't see it, he described it so vividly and used so many wonderful phrases to sum up certain moments throughout the race that it made it just brought the whole thing to life.
It did. He really rose to those occasions. I don't. His voice is the soundtrack, as we've often discussed, Mike, you and I, on and off the air. Tom Durkin's voice is the soundtrack of so many of our sport's greatest moments, and he had the perfect voice for it. His voice, such an easy listen. And I'm from Illinois, and as an Illinoisan, I take a special sense of pride in the fact that Tom came from Illinois. He grew up in Chicago, and equally good in the standardbred game. He's one of the few people I know of that ever called the Hambletonian and the Kentucky Derby the two premier events in those respective sports, and just an incredible talent.
He never got to say American Pharoah belted a Grand Slam, though.
He did not, and the irony of that was amazing. I mean, here the guy called races for that many years, never got to call a Triple Crown winner. Then literally the first year after he's retired, this happens. American Pharoah wins the crown. Having said that, and I know it's a dubious distinction, but to me, Tom Durkin's ability to look, it's difficult when the whole sport's wanting to see a Triple Crown. He called a number of instances where there was the build-up and then it didn't happen. Some of his greatest calls, California Chrome's defeat in the Belmont, Smarty Jones' defeat in the Belmont, are actually just amazing calls to me because of the way he handled a delicate situation.
Yeah, very well said. Kurt Becker with me here on the Horse Racing Radio Network. We're going to talk more about the aforementioned Smarty Jones in a minute. Kurt, I reached out to you, and so many of our listeners truly enjoy. We get emails, we get comments on social media about how much they love your stories that you put together every week, and we want to thank our friends at Keeneland for all of their support. They've been sponsoring those segments for the past several years, and we really appreciate it. You have a story coming up later today about Bing Crosby. That comes up at 10:20 Eastern. But for this segment, I thought it would be fun to stroll back through 2025 and have you choose some of your favorite stories or subjects or horses that you focused on throughout the year. So we'll go in chronological order. The first one is the filly that we just heard, winning the Woodward, defeating the boys at Saratoga, the great Rachel Alexandra. Why was that one that stood out to you this year?
Well, the first thing I remember, each week when I put these together, I will email the audio to yourself and to our producer, Lee Delapina. And I remember Lee sent back an email, and he said, are you aware you've actually already done a feature on here on Rachel Alexandra a couple of years ago? And admittedly, I did not remember that. So Lee and I traded a few thoughts back and forth by email, and we both decided, if ever there was a racehorse, if ever there was a great filly that was so good and there was so much you could say about her that you could do two different features for the same format and not repeat yourself, it would be Rachel Alexandra. So he and I both kind of laughed about it and said, why are we even debating this? Sure, let's go ahead and tell her story, and we can share some new aspects of it.
Yeah. What did you discover in the second version of the Rachel Alexandra Stroll Through Racing History?
A couple of things. One that stood out to me was I did not recall that Brian Hernandez Jr. Had ridden Rachel in her maiden victory. That was something I did not recall. I did not recall that after she broke her maiden, she missed a few months of that 2-year-old campaign, as I recall, with ankle surgery, and the fact that the numbers, the Preakness, specifically 85 years since the filly had won that race, and then the Woodward, 56 years since a filly or mare had won that race. Those were all things that we remember the 20-length win in the Preakness. Some of those other numbers, statistics only tell part of the story, But that time frame can really give context to what a racehorse accomplished.
Yeah. You know, one other story that you selected as one of your favorites in 2025 involved this year's Kentucky Derby winner and a mare named Crowned, who is the Dam of Sovereignty. Tell me a little bit more about that story.
One of the things that shocked me was learning that her ninth dam, Crown's ninth dam, Nellie Morse, who beat males to win the Preakness in 1924. The fact that this was a family loaded with blue-blooded racehorses, literally going back 100 years, all kinds of $1 million yearlings in that pedigree. Mushka, who pops up, I think she's the second dam maybe of Crowned. Mushka was a mare that I got to call at Keeneland. I had a lot of fun calling her. So it was fun to go on that journey. And then I got a message after that aired, that piece on Crown, from Riley McDonald of Eaton Sales. And Betty Moran, Brushwood Stable, was a client of Eaton Sales for many, many years. And he appreciated the fact that we had brought out the fact that Betty Moran was the breeder of Crown, the Dam of Sovereignty. And he said, her legacy in the game deserves to be remembered. So he said, I appreciate HRRN giving you the format to bring that out. So that meant a lot.
Yeah, there are so many of those stories that all of these horses have stories associated with them, and some are brought to light, some are not. And sometimes it's impossible to cover every storyline or to know every detail when you start looking further back. But I love that too, Kurt. Whenever you do get an opportunity, any of us in the media, whether it's on radio or television or print, whatever it might be, to go further back and to really talk about the history involving a horse or an individual in our game, I love those type of things.
It is. It's so much fun, and it's and I think for those of us who work in the sport, look, I say it all the time. There are a lot of people in this country who love horse racing, and they would give anything if they had a career or a job in this sport. So for those of us that do, I think it's a responsibility and a privilege to preserve this kind of history and to help bring it to the fore from time to time and tell these stories.
A few moments ago, you were talking about Tom Durkin's call when Smarty Jones came up short in his Triple Crown bid. That is another story you put together this year involving the Smarty Jones legacy, the Smarty parties that were taking place. Tell me more about that story and what stood out to you.
Well, I will admit, when I started, I did that feature right around the time Smarty was inducted this year into the National Racing Hall of Fame. And I am someone who, the last couple of years, I've been brought into the fold as a voter. And I will confess, I did not vote for Smarty Jones. I was in the camp that said 9 lifetime starts. He never beat older horses, fell short of the Triple Crown. No, this horse is not a Hall of Fame horse. And I will admit, when I did this feature, I went back and looked, and I started looking at his body of work on the track and off the track, meaning not only what he accomplished as a racehorse within those 9 starts, but the fan following he developed, the pockets of race fans around the country, people who probably normally did not follow horse racing. They were having people to their homes and having these Smarty parties that you referenced. And by the time I finished it, I said, you know what? I was wrong. That horse is a Hall of Famer and deserves to be so.
Yeah, and now a member of the Horse Racing Hall of Fame. September 13th is the show in which we aired a feature on Sky Terrace. And people will go, wait a minute, Sky Terrace, that name sounds vaguely familiar. Who's Sky Terrace? That was a horse that, as I recall, his biggest victory was a win at Churchill Downs at the spring meet one year in the Derby Trial, as it was known at the time. Sky Terrace was a horse I would not have been aware of, but I came across him by accident. I found a column the late Billy Reed had written in Blood Horse magazine. He was one of the investors. He was part of the syndicate that owned Sky Terrace. And it was largely Billy and a lot of other people from the Louisville area. And Billy Reed wrote about what it meant
that William Malone, a gentleman from Louisville, had put together this partnership and gotten so many people from the area involved, and they end up in the winner's circle for the Derby trial. And as Billy described this, I thought, what a great thing. You know, as much as we appreciate the high-end horses, the high-dollar horses, the prominent farms, it's also, I had never really thought about how a syndicated racehorse ownership really does open the door. As Billy said, he said, it opens the door for us to take our friends, our neighbors, our grandkids to the racetrack. What a great way to get people hooked on the sport, to get them involved in the sport. And I just thought that William Malone from Louisville, who made that syndicate happen and that whole story, to me it was a touching account of how much that kind of involvement can mean to folks in the game.
Wasn't Sky Terrace trained by, was it Vicky Foley?
That is correct. And, you know, that was another thing that came up I think within a week or so after this segment aired. And you're right, Vicky Foley was the trainer. It aired during the Keeneland September sale, and, of course, I'm a member of the auction staff there. And gentleman approached me from the Louisville area, came up and introduced himself, Jerry Romans, and he said, I want you to know something. He said, I know Vicky Foley. He said, she now is the person who kind of looks after William Malone and helps care for him as he is advanced in years. And he said, Vicky Foley and Mr. Malone wanted me to pass along to HRRN how much it meant for William and for that horse to be remembered. And that was moving to me. And I got to tell you, it couldn't have happened unless Billy Reed, who was a tremendous journalist, turf writer, unless he had written that account, because he did such a good job of describing what it meant.
That's fantastic. I love hearing those types of stories. Kurt Becker here on HRN. Kurt, the final story that you chose, or subject that you chose to remember on this show this morning as part of your favorites from 2025, was a story you put together in early October involving Malathaat. And that when she won the Breeders' Cup Distaff, I'll say it again now that you're joining me here on the show. I've said it when you're not on the show. I think that was one of your greatest race calls of all time.
I appreciate that, and so much of a circumstance like that is the privilege of being allowed to call races of the caliber of the Breeders' Cup, because that was a case where you had so many fillies and mares down the stretch who had a shot to win that race. It looked like 3 or 4 had a chance at the furlong marker. It looked like 3 or 4 had a chance at the 16th pole. It did not look like Malathaat had a chance turning for home that day. I mean, it was one of those things that it was almost tempting as the track announcer to discount her and not include her at that point in the call. But then something in the back of your mind says, it is the Breeders' Cup. They're all here for a reason. You ignore a mare like her at your peril. And I will admit, Mike, when you contacted me and you said, hey, look, Keeneland is sponsoring Malathaat Week. This led into opening weekend of the October meet this year at Keeneland. They would really like you to feature her. I kind of bowed my neck because I had another idea in mind. But, I got to thinking about it. Keeneland signs my paycheck. Horse Racing Radio signs my paycheck. Maybe it's a good idea to do what they're asking me to do here. So, and it turned out I had forgotten how good she was, not only on Breeders' Cup Day, but throughout her career at Keeneland. And, it made me happy to go back and realize the connection that Keeneland had with her and that she had with Keeneland, going back to when she sold as a yearling in the ring there.
Yeah, she was so good. And you're right, you kind of – sometimes you have to step away from it a little bit, right, before you – and then take a look at it a time later to realize how good a lot of these horses really were. It kind of like you described with Smarty Jones.
There's no question. I know I fall into the trap of not taking time to do that, especially anything that happens in the fall, because we've got the September yearling sale at Keeneland, which leads right into the October race meet at Keeneland, which leads right into the November breeding stock sale at Keeneland. And I will confess, sometimes I'm too busy looking ahead to the next thing. It's almost like, okay, check this off the calendar. That's complete. Now I got to get prepared for the next thing. And you're right, Mike. A person should make time to always sit down and reflect on races he's seen, in my case, maybe races I've called, and frankly, to take a moment to realize, these horses are amazing athletes, and it's incredible what they accomplish.
Kurt, we're going to take a moment to listen to that stretch call of Malathaat winning the Breeders' Cup Distaff.
Secret Oath, the leader. Nest goes to second. Society drops back into third position. Blue Stripe is in fourth. Malathaat fifth. Clariere is sixth. Has to move off the rail to try to find some more running room. Top of the lane. Secret Oath is the leader. Nest, Blue Stripe, Malathaat, Clariere fifth toward the inside. Secret Oath, Blue Stripe coming forward. Clariere to the rail. Malathaat to the outside. Blue Stripe has the lead. Malathaat, Clariere moves up the rail, but still third. Blue Stripe, Clariere, Malathaat, Clariere trying, Blue Stripe in front, Malathaat is there, Blue Stripe, Clariere, Malathaat, maybe, what a finish, 1 minute, 49.07 seconds.
One of the greatest Kurt Becker calls of all time. I don't know how you kept all of that straight as they're coming through the lane, my friend.
I tell you, it's I think a part of that is it's almost as though I think as a track announcer, you're a race fan, like everybody else that's tuned in or that's there at the track watching, and it becomes genuinely exciting to you. I've always said, trying to find like the proper pitch, the proper tone for a stretch call. You don't want to start shouting, but I think for a lot of us who are track announcers, it's the fact Larry Colmus, who did the TV call that day, he would tell you the same thing. As a race fan, you start getting genuinely excited. Who the heck is going to come out of this pack and win this darn thing? And that was an amazing race.
Yeah, it certainly was. And Kurt, it's been amazing to have you join me here this morning to remember some of these great horses and great people that we've had the chance to be associated with throughout the years here in thoroughbred racing. And there are so many wonderful stories, and I can't thank you enough for all of your hard work and dedication in putting those together. I know our listeners certainly enjoy it. And I'll remind everyone that if you have missed some of those stories, I'm sure that you haven't heard every single one throughout the year. They are all available for you to listen to on our website, and not just this year's. Every story that Kurt has put together are archived on our website, horseracingradio.net. You can go back, binge listen to all of them. You're going to have some extra time around the holidays. Why not pull up Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History stories and enjoy a wonderful trip down memory lane in thoroughbred racing? Kurt, I can't thank you enough, my friend.
Mike, I appreciate your having me on the show. Thanks to you, thanks to Keeneland, that the two of you, the two companies, HRRN and Keeneland Association, have given me the format to do this because I enjoy doing it. And here's wishing everybody in HRRN Nation a happy and safe holiday season.
Yeah, same to you, my friend. Enjoy it, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, buddy.
All right. Just a quick programming reminder that on Christmas Day, we're going to do some special Christmas Day programming for you here on the network. Christmas Day programming features an hour of Kurt's stories and the stories, Legends of the Turf stories that you hear every week on the show, put together and voiced by my mentor, Pete Coulis. Jude Feld has some stories that he put together in there I think you're going to enjoy, and some memorable moments in thoroughbred racing. That's all part of our Christmas Day programming. You're going to hear a replay of our Fantasy Derby show that we put together years ago, which is kind of a cool mythical Kentucky Derby of all the greatest of all time coming together. And then replays of some of our other shows like Trainer Talk, Call-In Show, and an all-new Weekend Stakes preview as part of our programming during Christmas week. So you can go to our website, and you can see the entire schedule, but I think you're going to enjoy what we have planned for you later on this week. When I come back, I'll take a look at a couple dates in racing history as they apply to this weekend and get you ready for hour number 3. This is the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Did you know VA home loans are a key to home ownership for those who served?
I would tell anybody who is interested in getting a VA loan to just do it.
For me, the best thing about the VA loan was the simplicity of it. I was expecting, government paperwork, it was going to go on forever, and it just wasn't.
Since the down payment for a VA loan is minimal, we were able to purchase this home and then use the money that we were going to use as a down to actually fix up the home.
And the only way we could do that was because the nest egg that we had saved for the down payment, we didn't have to use because we went the VA route.
This is a wonderful benefit that veterans can take advantage of.
In the military, we make a lot of sacrifices. We're away from our family a lot. And with the VA loan, it's a way that it makes it easier for us to get a home.
To learn more about VA home loans, visit va.gov/home loans.
Retirement can be scary, but only if you're not prepared. That's why AARP created thisispretirement.org. Because unless you've already retired, you're in pretirement, and you still have time to plan. Learn about retirement savings options, potential tax breaks, and how you can build savings over time. Visit thisispretirement.org for free resources to help you customize your action plan and feel the retirement fear disappear. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
On the battlefield, there's a saying America's military men and women live by. Never leave a fallen warrior behind, ever. Off the battlefield, Wounded Warrior Project operates with the same goal. We leave no warrior behind. Wounded Warrior Project is a non-profit organization created to help our men and women returning home with the scars of war. Whether those scars are physical or mental, we're here to make sure that they heal. And whether it's helping those with post-traumatic stress disorder live a normal life again, or giving much-needed support to injured warriors in veterans' hospitals. Because no one deserves our help more than the men and women who risk their lives to keep us safe. Wounded Warrior Project. We never leave a fallen warrior behind. Ever. Learn more about what we do at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Check out the all-new horseracingradio.net. All the same great horse racing radio content in a new, easy-to-use design. Listen to all of our shows streaming live or access the replays anytime. See our schedule, sign up for our newsletter, download our latest podcasts, and so much more. It's all on our website at horseracingradio.net. That's horseracingradio.net. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
2 hours down, 1 to go here on the Equine Forum, and the third hour of the show kicks off with Ashley Anderson in the TwinSpires Triple Play. She'll have 3 races for you to watch and wager on with TwinSpires this afternoon. Kurt Stroll Through Racing History, this week's edition. His story on Bing Crosby at 10:20, and at 10:30, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans, with Tim Wilkin. We'll talk about some of the hottest topics in the game today, including their thoughts on Rudy Rodriguez and the provisional suspension, which he has been given by HISA, 15 days, as the investigation is still ongoing. Is that right or wrong for HISA to have the power to do something like that during an active investigation? Dale and Tim will weigh in on that coming up 10:30 Eastern. One date in racing history as it applies to today in thoroughbred racing. It was December 20th, 1987 that the coach, the late D. Wayne Lucas, trained Tejano Run. Tejano Run. There was a Tejano Run, but it was not Wayne Lucas. Tejano became the first juvenile millionaire when he won the Hollywood Futurity with Lafitte Pinkai Jr. aboard. That was December 20th, 1987. Remember, if you missed any portion of this show so far, conversations with Bobby Dibona and Jareth Loveberry and Brian Hernandez Jr., Kenny McPeek, when they joined me together, Kurt Becker, that wonderful look back at some of his favorite Stroll Through Racing History segments. All you have to do is head back to the website. After I finish up at 11 a.m. Eastern, you can listen to the podcast of this show and all of our shows on our website and on your favorite podcast platform. I've been asking you this morning in our poll question to let me know what is the greatest racing-related Christmas gift you've ever received. Chris tweets to us and says, the American Racing Manual, of course. And David tweets to us and says, the best board game ever for a large group of people. And he has a picture of it. And David, I can tell you, you're 100% right. That is a great game. I also have the same one. It's a board game. And, yeah, it's really cool. It's a great, you can go to our Twitter page X page and see it on there. But it's a great game. 1 hour left to go on this Saturday morning. Don't forget, next Saturday's program is our special handicapping show. Everything you ever wanted to know about handicapping next Saturday here on the Equine Forum. I'll tell you more about that later in the third hour of the program. That comes your way next after this 10-second pause for station identification. This is the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
This is HRRN, horse racing's voice.
Apostle has the lead. Audible, fully stretched on the far outside. The rail open for Sir Anthony, and they're at the top of the stretch. Castellano now asks Audible for his best. Sir Anthony giving him all he wants on the rail. These two for a final 16th. Sir Anthony the leader. Audible has been outrun by Sir Anthony. Sir Anthony upsets the Harlan's Holiday.
Inside the furlong call, Long Range Toddy. The Clever Trevor winner is pointed on. Bank it. Rolling after Long Range Toddy. Long Range Toddy needs a line, and Long Range Toddy gets it by a head to win the Springboard Mile.
Welcome to the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires.
It's Chase's Road, who's finding this final Fairgrounds furlong. Chase's Road leads determinately by 3.5 with Raising Cane, and the winner is Then Hay Strike. It's Chase's Road. Chase's Road wins here by 5 in the Gunrunner Stakes.
Now here's Mike Penna.
Yeah, just because the calendar is getting ready to turn to 2026 doesn't mean that there's not some pretty good racing action left here in 2025. We've been talking about it throughout the show here this morning. Welcome back to Hour 3. Mike Penna, Baron of the Backstretch. Happy to have you in the saddle with me. One more hour to go. It begins momentarily with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley Anderson will give you 3 races to watch and wager on this afternoon with TwinSpires. Kurt Becker's Stroll Through Racing History coming up at 10:20, and at 10:30, you know what time that is. It's time for Dale and Tim to join me with I Ask, They Answer. They will tackle some of the hottest topics in the sport today. If you missed any portion of the first 2 hours of the show, head back to the website, horseracingradio.net, to listen to the podcast. Do that, too, on every podcast platform. But don't do it yet. Wait until I wrap up the show at 11 a.m. Eastern, and then the full show will be posted. But you can listen to every show we bring your way throughout the year right there on our website and, of course, on your favorite podcast platform. Time to kick off Hour 3 as we do every week with the TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley Anderson, good morning.
Good morning.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you and to your family, and looking forward to diving into a few races with you here this morning.
Well, same to you.
So all 3 races you have chosen have come from the fairgrounds, and this is kind of we've kicked off the Road to the Kentucky Derby series, but this is the Fairgrounds Road to the Kentucky Derby, and some promising youngsters getting ready to go to the post here on Saturday afternoon.
That's right. We've got the Gunrunner Stakes and the Untappable, so that's going to be our Road to the Kentucky Derby and Oaks prep races at the Fairgrounds to kick off that Road to the Kentucky Derby at the Fairgrounds. And we also have a ton of maiden special weights, a lot of 2-year-olds racing on the undercard as well. So a good chance to see if maybe we've got some long-term potential runners that we want to keep our eye on in the future.
Yeah, the Derby overshadows the Oaks a lot of times, especially in the media. It gets a lot of attention, and rightfully so. There's only one Kentucky Derby, but there's also only one Kentucky Oaks. And the 2-year-old ladies kick things off for us in race number 1 at the Fairgrounds here on Saturday afternoon. 5.5 furlongs on the turf. Maybe one of these horses or a couple of them make that transition to the dirt at some point and make their way down the road to the first Friday in May. Race 1 is the first race you've chosen in the Triple Play. Why'd you like that one?
Well, there's one big reason. We have a $5,000 win ladder promo at Fairgrounds, and I figured let's start in race 1 because the way this win ladder works, if you opt in and place a $10 or more single horse win wager at Fairgrounds all day Saturday, your winning win wagers move you up the win ladder, and you could share in a $5,000 prize pool. So why not get started in race 1? And I love 2-year-old races. I love the puzzle of trying to figure out who's going to step up, whether it's their first time out or maybe improving off a second or third start. And I thought this turf race at 5.5 furlongs was a good way to go.
You are one brave handicapper, let me tell you that. Not only are you focusing on a maiden race where there are some of the horses in here who have never made a starter. They only have one start to their credit, so we don't know what they're going to do. But then you have 5.5 furlongs on the turf, which to me is always a huge crapshoot.
Right. It's potentially going to be tricky, but I thought I found a really good price here with a first-time starter who is trained by Al Stahl Jr., and that's number 6, Ronnie, at 9-2. Now, this is an Omaha Beach filly who's making her debut at the fairgrounds, and she's out of a Kitten's Joy mare who's already produced a turf winner from 2 starters. Ronnie gets Paco Lopez aboard, who's currently the leading rider by wins at fairgrounds and winning at a 22% clip, plus a 23% winner on the turf. Ronnie has a bullet work at fairgrounds on December 13th. Her trainer is also winning at a 44% clip at fairgrounds to start the meet. He's 4 for 9 with a second and a third from those 9 starters and has a positive ROI with debut turf runners, $2.86. So I thought there was a lot of positives here for this first-time starter. Drew a good post. The morning line favorite, the 11, is trained by Cherie DeVoe. Could be dangerous, was only beaten a half length last out, first time on the turf, but I'm a little concerned about that outside post and wanted to try to beat the 11.
Yeah, Aquazura, the name of number 11 here in the first race at the fairgrounds. As you mentioned, Cherie DeVoe, Jose Ortiz. That can be a very potent combination in this spot, but we'll look to get some value here at 9-2 with Ronnie. I loved your comments on the pedigree because a lot of people, you don't have a lot to go on with a first-time starter, so we'll focus on pedigree quite often. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ashley, I've always felt that in turf races with first-time starters, pedigree can mean even more than in a dirt race. Do you agree?
I agree. I really like looking at turf maiden special weights, especially because of the fact that you can look at the dam and see, a lot of times you'll see a dam has produced, say, 2 winners from 3 starters, but maybe they don't have a turf winner. For me, if I see they have at least 1 turf winner or a couple, then that's extra positives for me. And it shows me that this horse probably is going to come out ready to go on the grass. So I always like looking at the pedigree for that reason. And then you also, with Brisnet past performances, you'll see first time out on the turf. Omaha Beach is 11% with his progeny first time on the turf. And the Dam Sire Kitten's Joy also 11% first time on the turf. But you also see overall Omaha Beach produces turf winners 14% of the time. And Kitten's Joy 13%, so pretty good percentages. You can look at the rest of the field and you'll see that some of them are only 9%, pretty low percentages, or have no turf winners from the dam. So that's a good way for me to try to weed out some of these other runners in the field.
It makes sense that Omaha Beach would throw turf runners because he himself a son of Warfront. Warfront, fantastic with turf runners. And you mentioned Kitten's Joy, the Dam Sire. How often will you go further back in the pedigree as opposed to just the couple of names that we see in the past performances?
Well, occasionally I'll look a little bit deeper. Kitten's Joy, to me, if I see Kitten's Joy, I know that's probably going to be a good turf runner. And especially if there's, a lot of times what I look at more so is if there's a stakes winner, maybe that the dam has produced. I like looking into those pedigrees and seeing, how are these other runners that have won or have won a stakes, how have they done and what age were they winning at? That's kind of what I look when I go to our pedigrees at Brisnet as well.
Yeah, interesting. All that information there, by the way. We talk about TwinSpires, Brisnet, fantastic. I use the Bris PPs, been using them for years, and you can go to brisnet.com to check out those. Ronnie, number 6, 9-2 on the morning line. The top pick of Ashley Anderson to kick things off, leg 1 of this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Ashley, how about race number 10? That's the second leg that you've chosen for us here this morning. That is the $100,000 untappable stakes, 1 mile, 70 yards on the main track, and it is much like the first race for the 2-year-old ladies.
Yep, and this one, the winner will get 10 points toward the Kentucky Oaks leaderboard, so a very important race early on in this road to the Kentucky Oaks. I went with the 1, Love Your Neighbor, who comes from off the pace. She won on debut at 7 furlongs over a sloppy track. What's interesting is this horse, so far, 3 starts. 2 of those starts came over a sloppy track, and then the second start was on the all-weather at Woodbine. So we haven't really seen this horse race on a fast main dirt track yet. But won on debut, like I said, at 7 furlongs, and then switched to Woodbine's all-weather for the Glorious Song Stakes. It was a poor outing that day, but she did go up against a filly who won by more than 5 lengths, and then won her next start against Stakes Company. So it's proven to be a key race there, with that horse going on to win a stakes race after that. But then Love Your Neighbor is coming off a narrow second-place finish, racing 6 furlongs at Fairgrounds, and came off the pace that day. Now stretching out to a route for the first time, and the added distance, I think, will serve her in her second start in New Orleans. She has a bullet work at Fairgrounds November 23rd. Her trainer, Michael Stidham, is a 15% winner from his last 95 starters, first time out a route, and a 17% winner from 105 starters going from a sprint to a route. She got Axel Concepcion aboard. The rail post should be a beneficial spot. It's winning at a 20% clip with this race type, and you get a good price at 6-1. So I thought there was a lot of upside here with Love Your Neighbor. There's some tough fillies in this field, but I'm going to go with the 1 from the rail.
Yeah, number 6, Missed Call for Ken McPeek, expected to take some money in here, 3-1 on the morning line. And then you also had the morning line favorite, Hit Parade, at 5-2, trained by Brad Cox. But really a lukewarm morning line favorite is the way I like to describe these horses when they're 5-2, 3-1, and they're expected to be among the favorites in the race. Why do you try to take a swing against a horse like Hit Parade?
What was interesting to me is Hit Parade started out on the turf at Horseshoe Indy, was third in this maiden special weight, going a mile on the turf. Then went to Churchill, raced 8.5 furlongs, but it dropped down to a maiden claimer. And so to me, I'm thinking, Brad Cox putting this horse in a maiden claimer, wasn't seeing a lot of potential with Hit Parade. Did come out and win by 2 lengths that day at Churchill, then went to that 1-turn mile in an allowance at Churchill and won by a half length over Missed Call. But I think that did get a 90 Brisnet speed figure, but it's interesting the first 2 speed figures for Hit Parade were pretty low, 59, 66. And a lot of times you'll hear about a bounce. With that big of a speed figure, does Hit Parade maybe come back down to earth in this next start? I just don't think the horse was facing the toughest competition, and so I think Hit Parade could be beatable in this spot.
I love that insight, too, the $50,000 maiden claimer 2 starts ago at Churchill, that getting inside the trainer's head a little bit, or the owner's head, and looking for intent and the way that they feel about these young horses early on. That can kind of give you a clue as to what they think about their ability. Not that horses can't outrun that and people can't turn out to be wrong, but certainly another angle when you're looking at handicapping these horses when maybe you don't have a whole lot of information to go on, when they haven't had 10, 12, 15 starts to show us exactly what they are. I like that, Ashley. As a matter of fact, next Saturday, if folks recall here on the Equine Forum, you joined me a few weeks ago, and so many other of the TwinSpires handicappers took time to be part of that show. We billed it as everything you ever wanted to know about handicapping, and we talked about so many different handicapping angles on that 3-hour program. We're replaying that whole show Christmas week, next Saturday here on the Equine Forum. So if you missed it a few weeks ago, you're going to hear the whole thing again next Saturday morning. And trust me, there is so much information. You could probably listen to that show 20 times and not pick up on everything. And that was one of the angles we talked about, Ashley, looking for intent.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that class drop angle as well, but sometimes the class drop is not it's not positive when they're dropping down to a maiden claimer. Then it's a little bit of a red flag.
Yep. Yeah, well done. Okay, so it is going to be number 1, Love Your Neighbor, in race 10 at the Fairgrounds, the Untappable Stakes. How about race 11, the Gun Runner? This is the 2-year-old boys, kicks off the Fairgrounds road to the Kentucky Derby, 1.1/16 on the main track.
I went with number 5, Crown the Buckeye, and this is a 2-year-old colt who's trained by Mike Maker. Most of the runners in this field, they come from off the pace, and I do expect the 2 Chip Honcho to set the early pace, but Crown the Buckeye should be sitting right off of him in the early stages. He's by leading freshman sire Yopon and has won a pair of stakes already against Ohio breds, but the competition still seemed to be fairly strong. I look at race ratings with Brisnet past performances. When he was at Thistledown, had a 114 race rating that he faced, and then a 120 class rating is what Crown the Buckeye earned that day, wired the field by 12 lengths, and then came back and won another stakes race, and that time got a 90% speed figure, winning by 4 1/4 lengths. So far, 2 times facing stakes company has more than passed the test, and now is going to be at Fairgrounds, where he does have a work on December 9th, and fairly sharp workout, getting experience over that Fairgrounds main track. it seems like so far he's really done not much wrong, and his Brisnet speed figures kind of jump off the page compared to a lot of these runners in the field. So I want to just stick with the 5, especially because I think this horse will be more forwardly placed, and a lot of the other runners have come from far back in previous starts, and I just don't know how hot of a pace we're going to get if the 2 is really the one that goes out and controls the early speed.
Solid value, too. 5-1 on the morning line. All right, let's recap Ashley's top 3 for you here this morning. Race number 1 at the Fairgrounds, she'll go with number 6, Ronnie, at 9-2. Race number 10 at the Fairgrounds, number 1, Love Your Neighbor, 6-1 on the morning line. And in race 11, the Gunrunner Stakes, she'll take number 5, Crown the Buckeye, 5-1 on the morning line. And Ashley, before I let you go, recap that ladder program that TwinSpires has out there today.
Yes, we have the $5,000 win ladder, and if you opt in at TwinSpires, place a $10 or more single horse win wager at Fairgrounds all day. Winning win wagers move you up that win ladder, and the more races you win, the more you can share in that $5,000 prize pool. I wanted to mention, too, we have 2 tournaments at Fairgrounds, the Gunrunner KDBC Qualifier. That's a $500 tournament, so $250 to your bankroll, $250 to the prize pool. And we have a $100 Fairgrounds Challenge that you can play as well. So go to TwinSpires.com Tournaments tab where you can see the T's and C's and register if you want to play in one of those tournaments.
Ashley, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I hope you get a little time off here over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I hope the same for you.
All right, good luck at the windows.
Yep, you too.
Ashley Anderson with this week's TwinSpires Triple Play. Coming up next, Kurt Becker has a great story about Bing Crosby. You won't want to miss it. That's part of this week's Stroll Through Racing History presented by Keeneland. Before I get to the break, though, if you didn't catch it in the first 2 hours, want to pass this along again. Our impossible trivia question, put together by our producer Lee Delapina. Who was the very last horse to win a race on Christmas Day in the United States? Now, think about that one for a minute. No Googling. The answer coming up toward the end of the show, right around 10:55 Eastern Time. Kurt Becker up next. Dale and Tim still to come, 10:30 Eastern. This is the Equine Forum, presented by TwinSpires on HRRN.
When it's time to paint the fences and barns, think Farm Paint. At Farm Paint, you get the industry's best coatings and paints factory direct at low, low prices. Farm Paint is your source for quality paints, roof coatings, dustless arena footings, and more. You can purchase online or drop into a Farm Paint store near you with locations in Heart of Bluegrass Country at 700 Phillips Lane in Lexington, Kentucky, Columbus, Ohio, and Sandusky, Ohio. Buy factory direct and save at farmpaint.com. That's farmpaint.com.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Hello, I'm Kurt Becker. Thanks for joining me as I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. He was an Academy Award winner, a racetrack and racehorse owner, and a businessman with investments across the United States. He was also a singer whose versions of White Christmas and Silent Night in his rich, soothing baritone remain popular at the holidays, despite the fact he died nearly 50 years ago. Today on The Stroll, we remember Bing Crosby. Born Harry Lillis Crosby Jr. on May 3, 1903 in Tacoma, Washington, Crosby got the nickname Bing as a child from a comic strip character. His father played any number of musical instruments, and of an evening, Bing and his 6 siblings would gather around their dad and sing. Crosby worked jobs as a teenager as a lumberjack and a lifeguard before enrolling at Gonzaga University to study law. During his time as a student, Crosby would walk home for lunch each day, and when he was 2 blocks from reaching the house, his mother would hear him singing and would begin to set the table. Crosby soon formed an orchestra with a few of his fellow students, and they began performing at tea dances, parties, and ice cream parlors. He and his friends lacked the ability to read music, but they would listen to phonograph records and memorize the melodies of popular songs. Before long, Crosby and a friend decided they wanted to head to Los Angeles and try their luck full-time at show business. Crosby's mother bought them an outdated jalopy for the trip, and legend has it that the car broke down as the aspiring entertainers were approaching the city. So Crosby and his friend walked the final 2 miles into L.A. Crosby played nightclubs and hotels in Los Angeles, and he even did a brief vaudeville engagement. He became known as someone not with an ideal voice, but a true voice which resonated with a clear and natural delivery. And that quavering voice was soon heard on network radio around the country. Crosby's talents also made him into one of America's top box office draws. He signed a contract to make 3 motion pictures annually for Paramount, and he hired a full-time secretarial staff to answer his fan mail, which averaged 15,000 letters per month. Taking a break from his hectic schedule in 1935, Crosby attended the races at Santa Anita. He decided he wanted to own racehorses, and the following year he took it even a step further by helping build a racetrack as a founding member of the Del Mar Thoroughbred Club. For his stable colors, Crosby chose blue and gold as a tribute to the theme song for his radio program. That song was titled "When the Blue of the Night Meets the Gold of the Day." Crosby partnered with Lynn Howard to form Bingland Stable, and together they began importing horses from South America. Most everyone agreed that while Crosby's earliest ventures into racehorse ownership were moderately successful, the stable struggled to win high-profile races. As a result, comedian Bob Hope, a close friend of Bing's, often leaned on the Crosby stable for wisecracks. After 8 years, Crosby finally scored a big win in the spring of 1943 when the Bingland Stable's Don Bingo won the 57th running of the Suburban Handicap at Belmont Park. Crosby was participating in a charity golfing event in Atlanta with Hope that week as part of the ongoing War Fund effort. And when he got news of the victory, he took advantage of the opportunity to poke fun at Hope. "My only regret," said Crosby, "is that Don Bingo's win will leave Hope brokenhearted. In fact, I heard his next 3 programs are ruined." Many years later, in 1965, Crosby would enjoy arguably his biggest thrill as a racehorse owner when he traveled to Ireland and bought a 1/3 interest in Meadow Court the night before the Irish Sweepstakes Derby. The next day, Crosby found himself standing in the winner's enclosure with co-owners Frank McMahon and Max Bell, with Meadow Court having won as the favorite. Crosby was proud of his Irish roots, so the victory understandably was overwhelming to him. The crowd cheered Crosby after the race, and he responded by asking spectators, "You had the horse too?" Winning trainer Paddy Prendergast told Crosby, "I think the whole of Ireland was on him." Later that summer, Meadow Court added a win in the King George VI and Queen Elizabeth Stakes. It made not only for another milestone for Crosby, but also for jockey Lester Piggott, who got his first win in the Classic, just as he had scored his first Irish Derby triumph a few weeks earlier. Crosby, who died in 1977, made an indelible impression on the American scene. He sold more records than anyone in history until the rise of Elvis Presley. It was said that his singing career was the reason the word crooner was created. His Paramount films were worldwide hits, and his radio show was top-rated. Crosby made more than 70 films and won an Oscar as Best Actor in 1944 for Going My Way. His business interests included oil wells, distribution rights for frozen orange juice, a 25,000-acre cattle ranch, and Bing Crosby Enterprises, which marketed everything from television productions to toy dogs. And he was a sports enthusiast, owning a minor interest in 2 Major League Baseball teams, breeding and owning thoroughbred racehorses, and serving as president of the racetrack at Del Mar. We remember Bing Crosby, and in that spirit, we wish everyone a white Christmas and the happiest of holidays. Please join me again next week when I take another stroll through racing history presented by Keeneland. For HRRN, I'm Kurt Becker.
Nobody weaves a story together like Kurt Becker. My thanks to Kurt for that story. If you missed any of Kurt's Stroll Through Racing History segments, check out the Stroll Through Racing History page on our website, horseracingradio.net, and you can listen to all of those shows. And don't forget, too, about our weekly Brisnet.com call-in show, 6 to 7 Eastern, every Thursday with Bobby Newman and James Scully. It is your chance to call in and talk racing with our experts. Every Thursday, 6 to 7 Eastern, here on HRRN. Coming up next, I Ask, They Answer with Dale Romans and Tim Wilkin. This is the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires on the Horse Racing Radio Network.
Race to TwinSpires, where you can unlock a $25 risk-free bet. Just use the code HRRN25 when you sign up. And if your first bet doesn't win, TwinSpires will refund your account up to $25. Wagering on the app is fast with free past performances, insider picks, and power plays every day you wager. TwinSpires. Download the app today to earn your $25 risk-free bet. Void where prohibited. For terms and conditions, visit TwinSpires.com. Must be 18 or older, 21 and older where applicable. For help with a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Send your mare to Maryland. After she foals here, breed to one of our stallions, and your 2025 foal is eligible to be a registered Maryland bred, giving you the opportunity to earn significant bonuses. And beginning with 2-year-olds of 2025, Maryland bred and Maryland sired horses will earn 40% higher breeder bonuses than out-of-state sired runners. Maryland, a foundation of greatness, a bright future ahead. Learn more at MarylandThoroughbred.com.
This is I Ask, They Answer on the Equine Forum on HRRN.
To the 5/16 pole, Provenance being tackled by Litmus Test. 2.5 lengths to Acknowledge Me Please on the outside of Blacksmith at the top of the stretch. Provenance on the inside and Litmus Test the outside. Provenance, Litmus Test, locked in battle at the 3/16 pole. 4 lengths in front of Blacksmith, who's hammering away in third at the 8th pole. And Litmus Test with Provenance. Litmus Test on the outside, taking the lead now. He kicks away from Provenance. Blacksmith is representing Late Danger. He's coming home strongly, but Litmus Test has the winning advantage. Litmus Test has defeated Blacksmith by just over a length. They were clear of Provenance and many lengths to Acknowledge Me Please.
Litmus Test, an impressive winner of last weekend's Los Alamitos Futurity, giving Hall of Fame trainer Bob Baffert a record-padding 15th win in that race. Today we debate which Baffert 2-year-old will turn out to be the best 3-year-old. Plus, Dale and Tim weigh in on the provisional suspension of trainer Rudy Rodriguez, and should the late Rags to Riches be an automatic selection to next year's Hall of Fame class? Those topics and much, much more are straight ahead on this week's edition of I Ask, They Answer with trainer Dale Romans and turf rider Tim Wilkin, presented by the University of Louisville Equine Industry Program and the College of Business, and all starting just 30 seconds from right now.
A spark turns into a dream, and your dreams fuel a love that will last a lifetime. Turn your passion into a career with experienced guidance, a thorough study of equine business, as well as opportunities to get your hands dirty and put your mind to work. Located in the heart of horse country, let your passion fuel your profession at the U of L Equine Industry Program. Apply today.
All right, guys, first of all, let me start by wishing both of you a very Merry Christmas. This is the final time we'll get together on the show before Christmas, and because of that, we're going to talk about a few things pertaining to the Christmas season, and Shane in North Carolina kicks us off this morning. He starts by wishing each of us a very Merry Christmas, so Shane, back to you. We appreciate that. He says, with the year wrapping up, guys, what is your pick for the best race or races of 2025? Dale, you want it first?
Yeah, I'll take it first. I mean, it's pretty cliche, and it wasn't that exciting a race, but I loved it. The Kentucky Derby, I thought it was a great day, and the Derby race itself was, I made my first bet in probably 20 years. I bet the winner and hit the exacta, so that's my favorite race of the year.
Well, that must have been an easy race to hit because I had it too.
But yeah, and he went off, and Sovereignty was way too big a price. Anybody who watched him train all week knew that he stood over the field, and it was a good day.
I was hoping his price would have gone higher.
Yeah,
because he went down. He came down.
Yeah, when I bet, I think he was 8 or 9 to 1 when I bet on him. That's the only reason I made a bet for the first time in 20 years.
So you're the reason he came down a little bit, huh?
Maybe at one point.
Dale, have you made a bet since?
Nope, but I'm still spending the money I won.
So you made a good bet.
It was pretty good, yeah. It was worthwhile. I had 20 years worth of money saved up.
Just for this one day.
For that one day, that one special race.
Timmy, how about for you?
There's a couple for me. The Person Lunson race at Saratoga. when Torpedo Anna held off Darth Vader by a nose. I know that Anna was getting to the end of the line for her, but she still gutted it out and showed her championship resume, the way that she refused to lose that race. And I'll throw in the Belmont Stakes, because that was when, up at Saratoga, even though it was at a mile and a quarter, it was the Derby rematch between Sovereignty and Journalism, who had gone on to win the Preakness while Sovereignty skipped it. There was a lot of hype for that race, and Sovereignty showed again why he was the best 3-year-old in the country this year when he won by 3 lengths over Journalism, and Baeza, who was third in the Derby, ended up a very non-threatening third. So those two stick out to me. And then I guess you'd have to throw in the Breeders' Cup Classic, because there was so much hype with that race being the best field since maybe, 98. And, it took off. A lot of the luster was taken off when Sovereignty got sick. But still, you had Forever Young holding off Sierra Leone by half length and, being followed up by the likes of Fierceness, Journalism, Mindframe, and Baeza. It's a star-studded field, and I don't think it disappointed.
Timmy, don't you think you can make an argument for Journalism's Preakness being maybe the race of the year, the way he had to bull his way through and go through a tight hole and then run down Gosker, who had a big jump on him at that point?
Well, I suppose you could, but a lot of people thought that Journalism was the reason that there was the incident in mid-stretch anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was certainly a tour de force by Journalism, the way he ran, and he did the way he ran when in the Haskell was the same thing. It was the big problem Journalism had this year is that he came along the same year as Sovereignty.
Yeah, a little bit like Affirmed and Alydar.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the same thing.
Agreed.
Dale, I was just thinking as Timmy was talking about that, and you mentioned the Kentucky Derby. With your stable this year, you had a big year, so congratulations on that. What were some of the performances from your horses that stood out most to you?
Well, Bob Roski, for one. That was at Saratoga to win a stake with a horse I owned myself at Saratoga was big. He was a nice 2-year-old. Farrell's Wine winning at Kentucky Downs was good. I've trained 4 generations out of that family, so they're like my kids and grandkids. But, so for her to win and for the Pacellas, which are my long over 30-year clients, that was a big one. But overall, it was really a good year. It was a lot of fun. I'd like to have it again next year.
Are you going to decide what you're going to do with Bobrovsky this year in 26? Is he going to the dirt?
I don't know. We might be back and forth. We'll just find the best spots for him. He's here in Florida right now doing good, and I'll start him sometime after the first of the year.
Will he get on the Derby trail, you think?
I don't think he wants to go that far, but he's going to be a lot of fun.
All right.
Typically, when listeners submit questions, many times they submit more than one, and I try to pick one to work in, and then if we get to others in other shows, I'll try to mix those in too. Well, Shane, it's Christmas, so I'm going to go with all of the questions you submitted to us on this Saturday morning. Shane in North Carolina also wants to know, guys, what is your favorite Christmas or holiday tradition? Timmy, what's yours?
Well, first of all, Merry Christmas to Shane. It's a Christmas miracle that he's got all these questions going to be answered today. It's great. A Christmas tradition I have, on Christmas Eve, anyone that comes to my house gets a present.
I'll be there.
What's your address? What's your address?
Come on over. There's always presents. Anyone that comes to my door gets a Christmas present.
I like that.
Is it the same present, or do you get something different for everybody?
They're all wrapped. Many presents are wrapped under the tree already in anticipation.
That's cool.
So you guys find your way here. You're all set.
Tim, we got a lot of listeners. I hope you bought a lot of presents this year.
They'd have to find me first, though, wouldn't they? That would be their chore. But if they find it, they'll get some.
I love it.
Say, I'll tell you, I don't know if it's tradition, but it's what I did when I was a kid. My parents were divorced, and you had to bounce from house to house, and it always put a damper on things. And I said, "Oh, I'm not going to do that with my kids." So when I got going a little bit, I bought a great big house in Louisville, and everybody was welcome. If you didn't like somebody, weren't coming because they were there, shame on you. And everybody would come to my house. It's watered down a little bit now. A lot of them have passed on, but big house full of people every Christmas was what I liked.
Yep.
Now, will you be in Florida for Christmas this year?
No, this year it's got a little bit splintered. Everybody's got their new fiancés and the new babies here, and Tammy's going to go see her father at Palm Coast, Florida. She hadn't been Christmas with him in a while. He's 83, and her and her brother are going there, and I'm going home with the new grandchild and to see my mother. So we'll be separate for Christmas this year. It's going to be a little splintered.
I hope you'll buy presents for everybody.
Christmas is 365 days a year for everybody around me. As many packages come to the house, it's crazy.
You're like a regular Kris Kringle.
It's Prime is, or whatever they call it, Amazon. That's Kris Kringle. They got a sled that shows up 365 days a year.
How about this one? Shane wants to know, what's the best Christmas gift for the horse racing fan? What do you think?
A winner.
I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, you just give them a winner. They're happy. Give them a voucher and tell them who to bet it on.
Or you could always, if you want to do something material, you could always go get them tickets to the Kentucky Derby, tickets to a season pass to Saratoga, tickets to the Breeders' Cup. Get them a nice Kentucky Derby hat. There's always things online you can buy, but horse fans want winners, and if you can give them a winner that's a $20 winner, that should be good for the whole year.
That's all they need.
They can buy their own presents at that point.
Absolutely.
You know what? A lot of horse fans don't care if it's a winner or loser. They just want a tip.
Right. Yeah, there's always tips.
Yeah. Frank Jones, the biggest player in Churchill Downs, used to tell me, he said, I don't mind betting on a loser. I just don't want to miss a winner.
Yeah.
To give him all the tips.
And remember, the only sure thing in horse racing is there's no sure thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's so true. Shane already got his big gift. He's going to be heading to the Kentucky Derby after we talked about that here on the program. But that's for his birthday in May. But I'm sure that that he'll get some nice Christmas gifts because he is a massive horse racing fan. And Shane, we appreciate you writing into the show just about every single week. We certainly appreciate your questions. He has one more for you guys, and this one has nothing to do with Christmas, but it has to do with 2026. He wants to know which of the following Bob Baffert trained horses offers the best value or upside heading into the new year. And he's focusing on the 2-year-olds. Litmus Test, winner of last weekend's Los Alamitos Futurity. Blacksmith, who is still a maiden, but was a clear-cut second in that Los Al Futurity. Providence, who was third in the Los Al Futurity, is a son of Into Mischief out of Monomoy Girl. Hard to get a better pedigree than that. And then Boyd is the other one, undefeated winner of the Ed Brown Stakes at Churchill on November 29th from Baffert. Timmy, which of those four do you think turns out to be the best 3-year-old?
Well, the way he termed his question when he was talking about a value or which one would be best, there's two different things. You get a Bob Baffert horse, usually you don't get a lot of value because they're usually always favored. The horses that he's won the Los Al Derby with, he's only had one of them real quiet won the Derby, and that was his first Los Al win. I mean, Point Given was in there, and he won 2 legs of the Triple Crown. Looking at Lucky, Pioneer the Nile was second. But of this group, I would think if you're talking about which one right now of this group is going to be the best one, I think you'd have to say Litmus Test because, he won that race, and then in his first 3 starts, he was almost double-digit odds in all of them. And he finished 4th in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. He was 4th in the Del Mar Futurity. He was 3rd in the Breeders' Futurity at Keeneland. I think that it's tricky with the Baffert horses because they're always so well meant and they're always going to get a lot of attention. But if you're looking at these four of the ones, and there's going to be more, we know that once the 3-year-old season starts. But of these that you mentioned, I think the one that has the most upside right now is Litmus Test.
Yeah, and the value upside part of the question here is where Shane was really going with this. I may have asked it incorrectly, but Providence, third in the low sale futurity, behind Litmus Test, a son of Into Mischief out of Monomoy Girl. Dale, I got to assume if you're looking for value and upside, that pedigree is going to steer you that direction.
That pedigree makes a stallion, that's for sure. So if you're looking at long-term upside, it would be him. But, Shane, appreciate your participation in the show. Love all your questions, but let's don't have questions that take a lot of research. With that being said, I'm just going with Boyd because he's named after my friend Boyd Browning, and that runs Phase Acceptance. So I'm just going with Boyd because I like the name the best.
Wait, now, Dale, you said that you don't like him asking questions that take a lot of research. You don't do any research anyway.
I know, so I don't have a good answer. So I just taken the horses I like the best name. I mean, that's why, if everybody listening, that's why I always ask Tim first the difficult questions, and then I just play off of him half the time because I don't know the script. When they call it 11:30, I forget we were supposed to be doing the show.
This is all true.
It's all true.
I don't know. I think you're playing coy with us. You're playing possum.
No. Right. Well, I look at the phone every week and say, damn, I forgot today on Friday at 11:30. Or that's another behind the scenes. It's supposed to be Saturday at 10:30.
I got to tell you, I think maybe the best performance of 2025 didn't come on the racetrack. Dale, I'm sure you'd agree. It came with your performance in the showdown competition this year.
Oh, no, here we go again. Yeah, by far the highlight of the radio show. I mean, I'm sure everyone out there was on pins and needles when that draft took place.
Well, we're doing it again, and I vow that I'm going to come back with a vengeance.
Yeah, well, that's your third time avowing that, but good luck to you. Another thing I was thinking, remember we started talking last January about the listener that sent in the most questions would be a champion of some kind. And Shane, you galloped to the lead here today doing all Mike's job work for him. He didn't have to do a thing this week.
Well, I guess Shane would probably be the secretary of the questions being submitted this year, right? Tom and St. Louis asked a lot, too.
I lost track about a month in, but, yeah, Shane, Tom, and St. Louis, they were neck and neck most of the year.
Well, I think Shane closed it out with a bang.
Although you hated the last question.
Right. I didn't like the last one. Most of them are good. That last one was too much research.
I'll tell you what.
Maybe he had too much eggnog.
Right.
I'm going to say this to our listeners. If you have a question for Dale and Tim, we tell you all the time, you can submit your questions to us via email, mike@horseracingradio.net, or post it on our social media pages. And, guys, I say this all the time, but I know you love getting questions from our listeners.
No question.
We do, because we love the fact that they pay such close attention to racing. But would appreciate a few yes or no questions.
I don't think you're going to get that with this next one either, Dale. We're going to turn our attention to our friend Nick Zito, say hello to him, and give you guys the chance to tell me if the following statement is right or wrong.
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right? What do you think? Right or wrong?
Okay, guys, HISA has placed trainer Rudy Rodriguez on a 15-day provisional suspension, citing some of the horses in his care were deprived of necessary veterinary treatment. Clark Brewster, the attorney for Rodriguez, said in a statement that the accusations amounted to omissions in record keeping and did not constitute deprivation of necessary care. They also said that not all of the horses referenced had been placed on the vets list. So I'm going to ask you, is the idea of HISA being able to issue provisional suspensions during an ongoing investigation right or wrong?
Yeah, right or wrong. Am I right?
Dale, not yes or no, but it is right or wrong. What do you think?
That's wrong, and I've argued this with them a lot. You're innocent until proven guilty in this country. It doesn't matter what business you're in. I don't understand all the nuances of the Rudy problem. I know Rudy's a good man, and he's always taking good care of his horses. I've shipped into his barn many times. He comes into mine. He's a good friend. Yeah, so until you're proven guilty, you shouldn't be suspended.
I agree with Dale on that. I mean, that's the way the law has always been. It is until proven guilty. I see why Heisa did it, because they wanted, they have the integrity of the game in the forefront. But, I've dealt with Rudy many, many times over the years at Saratoga and Belmont. And he's always seemed to me to be a pretty good horseman. I know that he's gotten a lot of negative publicity for things that have happened in his past, but hell, if you're a horse trainer, you're going to get that. But until the gavel comes down and says you're guilty of doing this, I don't think he should be suspended before that.
Is this part of Heisa that, guys, you could see changing down the road? Because this is such a high-profile case, and we're talking about a provisional suspension. Nothing has been proven yet. Does this provisional suspension power of Heisa eventually get repealed, if you will?
I'd like to see it get repealed, and I think it should be and could be. Everybody knows that HISA was rolled out poorly. A lot of the rules have been changed. Lisa's working hard on fixing a lot of them, but this is one that needs to be fixed. You're innocent until proven guilty, no matter what you do.
Yeah, plenty more to come on that story in the weeks ahead, I'm sure. We'll check in with Nick Zito again next Saturday morning here on I Ask, They Answer, and find out if the topics that I pose are right or wrong. Tom in St. Louis has our final topic, and guys, again, he submits a couple of questions here, so we're going to, and these were actually submitted a few weeks back, and I did not get to them, so I'm bringing them back for you, Tom. Merry Christmas. 2007 Belmont Stakes winner Rags to Riches, who died at the age of 21 just before Thanksgiving, gave Hall of Fame trainer Todd Pletcher his first Triple Crown race win when she beat Curlin in the Belmont Stakes. She's been on the ballot for the Hall of Fame induction for the past couple of years and hasn't gotten in. Should the committee automatically put her in this year? Timmy, you're a voter just like me. Should she get in this year automatically?
Well, I've always voted for her. She's been on the ballot since
me too.
2019, I think it was. But, it's not like the committee puts her in. She's got to be voted in. And, this is one of the more controversial subjects, saying because, those that say she shouldn't be in because she had such a short window of a career with just 7 starts. But she won 5 of them. 4 of them were grade 1. She won the Oaks. She won, the first filly in 102 years to win the Belmont. And she beat a 2-time Horse of the Year in Curlin. I mean, I think to get into the Hall of Fame, if you do something spectacular in the game, you should get in. She didn't get the chance to take on Older the next year because she got hurt. I mean, that's not her fault. But while she was on the racetrack, she did a heck of a lot of good things. And I think that's Hall of Fame worthy, and I think she should be in. So I vote for her every year, and I'll vote for her again this year. I'm not ashamed to say that. I think she belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Me too. I agree 100%. And don't you think that whole argument that she only ran 7 times is kind of watered down, especially when you look at a horse like Smarty Jones, who was inducted this past season? He had 9 starts. Yes, he won 8 of them, but only 9. Right. He only had 2 more starts than her.
Unjustified had 6 starts, but if you win the Triple Crown, you're going to get in the Hall of Fame. That's right. That's a rubber stamp. You win the Triple Crown, you're going in. But you're right. If Smarty Jones had 8 starts, 8 wins and 9 starts. What is Rags to Riches did everything during her racing career to deserve a spot in the Hall of Fame.
She should have been first ballot. She should have been first ballot. Anytime a filly winning a classic, one of the 3 classics is just like being a Triple Crown winner. Should have been in first ballot. It's ridiculous.
There's only been 3 fillies that have won it, and I think there's only been 24 fillies that have tried it. The last one was Nest a couple years ago. To run a mile and a half against Colts and win, that's extraordinary feat, Hall of Fame worthy. Shame on those who don't vote for her.
Tim, she didn't beat a 99-1 shot. She
No,
beat
she beat
Curlin.
Curlin. Yeah, 2-time horse of the year.
Yep.
Definitely should be in.
I agree. I agree 100%. The second part of Tom's question here is, isn't it ironic that Wayne Lukas got his first Derby victory with a filly, of course winning colors, and his protege, Todd Pletcher, gets his first Triple Crown win with a filly in Rags to Riches? He wants to know, guys, what does that say about how that program, the Wayne Lukas program and now the Todd Pletcher program, masterfully handled their fillies? Dale, what's it say?
I think it says more about the way they think outside the box more than they handle their fillies. I think that Wayne was famous for thinking outside the box and doing things. He told me himself one day, he said, don't listen to the people around you, the press, running with your horse where you think it should run, when it should run. He said, I've made millions of dollars with horses that people said I was in the wrong place. And I think it's that mindset more than anything.
Yeah. I mean, look, Wayne had he won 15 of his Eclipse Awards with fillies and mares. Todd has 6 Eclipse with 5 fillies and mares. It's not like they're the only ones that know how to train fillies, but Todd learning under Wayne, he took a lot of the philosophies that Wayne taught him and took them over to his own barn, and it's obvious the way he brings his fillies along much in the way Wayne does. They don't baby them. They run them in tough spots, and they know that the way they train them that they've got ability. And it also helps that they're getting really good stock because of who Wayne was and who Todd is now. It's not like it was a fluke that they were getting good fillies. They've always had good fillies, but they knew and know what to do with them.
Yep. Tom, we appreciate all the questions you send in every single week here to the program. And Merry Christmas to you and to your family. Guys, we've got about 4 minutes left. We have to get to the final point of the week. But before we do that, Timmy, you brought up the idea before we started the show. You said, we should talk about our favorite Christmas movies of all time before we wind things down here in 2025. So what is your favorite, Tim?
Anyone that doesn't say It's a Wonderful Life is wrong. I mean, there's the new generation of people never seen it, never heard of it, but you have to watch that on Christmas Eve. And if you don't get a lump in your throat, there's something wrong with you. You can watch Elf and Home Alone days leading up to Christmas. Those are just schlock. But if you want a really good Christmas movie, watch It's a Wonderful Life.
I'll go with you on that. It's a Wonderful Life by far. Love Clarence. Anytime you're feeling down and out, it's a good movie to watch no matter what. Things get better.
You could be like Clarence, Dale.
Yeah, if I need to be, I'll be your friend. I'll show you how good life can be.
I'm picking The Grinch, my all-time favorite.
What, the Jim Carrey movie?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I watched it the other night. I love it.
Oh, my. We gotta work on you.
Yeah.
I know I'm in the minority, but I love it. I think it's fantastic. I enjoyed it again, as I do every year. So I'll take The Grinch as my favorite Christmas movie. By the way, our listeners can submit their favorite Christmas movies, too. We encourage them to be part of the show. They can email the show, mike@horseracingradio.net, and let us know, and we appreciate that. Final point of the week. This is the last time we're going to do this in 2025, at least live, because next week we're replaying our handicapping show, so we won't have a live I Ask, They Answer. We'll be back in the new year. Timmy, why don't you kick it off for us? What is your final point of the week?
Well, Saratoga is, I guess, not that far off. The New York Racing Association just released the schedule for 2026. And get ready for the longest summer in Saratoga history. We got 51 days of racing. If you include the final installment of the Belmont Stakes, and the actual regular meet's going to start on July 3rd with this 4th of July festival. 51 total days this year, the most ever in racing history at Saratoga. Last year I think it was 49. Summer will come, and summer will end early for me this year because I'll be working most of it, which is fine.
Yep, that'll be good to be up there. But happy holidays, everybody. That's all I got to say. Enjoy the rest of the year, and we'll see you next year.
Guys, appreciate it. Enjoy Christmas, and we'll look forward to talking in the new year.
All right. Yeah, Merry Christmas to you all.
All right.
Merry
Dale Romans, Tim Wilkin, here on I Ask, They Answer. Very happy holidays to all of our listeners out there throughout HRN Nation. If you have a topic you want to hear Dale and Tim discuss, just told you what to do. Email the show, post it on our social media pages. We'll get it worked in for you. I Ask, They Answer is presented every week by the University of Louisville, Equine Industry Program, and the College of Business. I'm back with the answer to this week's impossible trivia question next on the Equine Forum on the Horse Racing Radio Network, where racing comes to talk.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and its prediabetes awareness partners.
Think back to the last time you were in nature. What comes to mind? Hiking through a lush forest, floating on a lazy river, or perhaps watching a vibrant sunset on a beach full of glistening plastic bottles and food wrappers. Unfortunately, this isn't a joke. Here in the U.S., we generate the most plastic waste in the world, with 70% of it ending up in landfills. And by the time you're done listening to this ad, more than a dump truck's worth of plastic will have made it into the ocean. Plastic has become a useful part of our everyday lives, but it's polluting the air, water, and soil that all life needs to survive. This is a human problem that can be solved with human action. But it's going to take all of us, from individuals to businesses to governments and everyone in between. Help create a cleaner future for both people and nature. Visit wwf.earth/plastics.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becker. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Want to get the latest HRRN content directly on your computer or mobile device? Then subscribe to our podcast using the Podbean app or Apple Podcasts. Just go to hrrn.podbean.com on your computer and click follow, or download the Podbean app and search HRRN. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts and listen to our latest episodes anytime. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our podcasts today. You're listening to the Equine Forum on HRRN, presented by TwinSpires.
Gift the blood horse this holiday season, and you can gift the racing enthusiast in your life a blood horse subscription for as little as $59. It's a must-have subscription for anyone who lives and breathes the sport. Subscription includes articles and stories not found online or in the daily, with exclusive content that keeps you in the know, as well as a printed 2026 Stallion Register with a print subscription. Give a present that gives all year long. Give a subscription today at bloodhorse.com. Yeah, that's wonderful. As a matter of fact, the web shop.bloodhorse.com is where to go to get your subscription. I highly recommend it. It's also a great website, too. You go to bloodhorse.com and you can get all the news that you need there, and we appreciate all of their support throughout the year. Boy, what a show, huh? Covered an awful lot of ground. You heard from Jareth Loveberry. My thanks to him for taking time to visit with me in between a very busy schedule for him down at the fairgrounds after recording his 2000th career victory. Bobby Dibona was with me, and then, of course, all that action in the third hour of the program and so much more here on the Equine Forum. Time now to check in with Lee Delapina. He has the answer to this week's impossible trivia question.
Thank you, Mike. Who was the very last horse to win a race on Christmas Day here in the United States? That was a maiden claimer named Not Soon Enough. He won the 11th race at Calder Racecourse on December 25th, 1994.
Did you get that one right? Yeah, pretty cool question there. Lee Delapina with the impossible trivia question. We'll bring it back for you again next week. By the way, next week's show, as I mentioned, is we're bringing it back. We did this a few weeks ago. We're going to replay the whole show for you as a Christmas present to you. Everything you ever wanted to know about handicapping. It's a really cool 3 hours, taking you inside the world of handicapping with TwinSpires handicappers and the Pontiff of the Pick 4, Jude Feld. That's next Saturday morning, and then back with another live show the following Saturday here on HRN. But want to wish everybody a wonderful holiday season and a very happy new year as well. My thanks to my producer, Lee Delapina, in our Lexington studios, Chauncey for handling all of our social media, and to all the guests I just mentioned, appreciate you joining me each and every week throughout the year. I'm Mike Penna. Thanks for listening to the Equine Forum presented by TwinSpires. Check out the podcast on your favorite podcast platform and on our website. Go Steelers.